talkSPORT Sports Update, powered by the Nissan Van range. Commercial vehicles that go the distance for your business. Search Nissan Vans or head to your local Nissan Van centre.
A very good morning. It is 1 minute past 10 with your sports headlines. I'm Amelia Beltrao. Are Wales ready to compete in the World Cup? Gabby Bonglahor doesn't think so.
The last World Cup, I was there and I went to some of the Wales games. They were poor. Do you know what I mean? I just feel like Wales, the squad of players they've got, probably not ready for another World Cup.
Wales lost at home to Bosnia in the playoffs. Meanwhile, Michael O'Neill says he plans to remain as Northern Ireland manager beyond the summer after his side's hopes of reaching the World Cup were ended by Italy. He said his players carried a terrific attitude throughout, though.
It's a very young team. I think the average age of the team is 22 years of age, which is incredibly positive for us to come here against an experienced team like Italy.
Now, the Republic of Ireland also suffered a playoffs defeat to the Czech Republic. Thomas Tuchel's urging fans not to boo Ben White when he makes his England return tonight in their friendly against Uruguay. 11 players are sitting out to rest, including Harry Kane, before the full 35-man squad compete for their plane ticket against Japan next week. Emil Heskey has told us tonight should give us a good idea who can deliver up front to eventually replace the captain.
It's their chance of solidifying themselves in that talk of being the one to take over, because we really don't know who's going to take over from Harry Kane or what it's going to look like after he leaves.
And Luke Littler silenced fans in Berlin with an epic double Big Fish checkout to beat Michael van Goghen. That's 2 treble 20s followed by a bullseye, and he did that twice. It's back-to-back Premier League wins for the world number one, who is now 2 points clear of Johnny Clayton at the top of the table. There's more at talksport.com.
talkSPORT News.
You're very welcome. Did you need an explainer for that, Crookie? Oh, I thought you might. That's why I put it in there. The government insists it's not telling parents what to do after issuing advice on screen time for children. And Donald Trump has paused his plans to bomb Iran's energy plants for 10 more days. Emma's back at past.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. You can't trust the weather right now, but you can always trust Pirelli tyres. In stock now at your local centre. Visit quickfit.com and book today.
Damp and cloudy in the south, but some sunshine later on, windy and showers further north.
Hello, very good morning to you. You're listening to Sam Matterface Alex Crook and the former Chelsea, Charlton, West Ham and Benfica defender Scott Minto. We're live on talkSPORT. So England and Scotland are left to fly the flag alone in the USA, with Wales, Northern Ireland and the Republic all out. Are you commiserating with the neighbours this morning or celebrating being the last ones standing? Meanwhile, Thomas Tuchel's England hosts Uruguay tonight, live on talkSPORT. Kicks off at 8 o'clock. The boss wants the boo boy treatment of Ben White to end ahead of his return, but will the Wembley crowd play ball? Also tonight, is the Premier League running out of genuine superstars? We talk big match bonanza with Jamie George, who joins us live, plus preview a massive heavyweight clash as Moses Atoma faces Jermaine Franklin in Manchester this weekend. It's Sam Matterface, Alex Crook and Scott Minto, and we're live on talkSPORT. Yes, it is Fun Boy Friday. Hello, $1 Million Minto is here alongside the award-nominated Saltmeister. Congratulations, by the way. Last year, Scott, you'll remember he had a proper strop and stormed out when he was nominated but didn't win. It was like Vinicius Jr. at the Ballon d'Or. You going to be victorious this time and avoid all that drama?
It's a tough list, but thank you very much. There's some great journalists on the list, and congratulations to you, Commentator of the Year nominee as well.
That's very kind of you. Scott Minto won the FA Cup, played for Benfica in the Champions League, represented the England under-21 side. But there's nothing quite like getting called up to replace Gabby Agbonlahor, is there?
Yeah, and all of that was in the last century. But by the way, can I just say, that I've come in with you. We're listening to Amelia with her news and that. This guy thinks he's Simon Jordan, comes in literally a minute to go. She's on air and then says, "Thanks for explaining the dance there."
I'm pleased you're here to reveal his behaviour. Usually I get accused of revealing too much of his behaviour.
Well, that is also true.
I'm pleased you're
Absolute
here to do
diva.
that.
Even walking to the cafe as well. It's like, someone's opened a door for me. He goes straight past, barges me out the way, and then goes, "Oh, sorry, mate, sorry."
Yeah. Where's my red carpet? Well, anyway, me and Crook are in a good mood today because we're a little bit refreshed after 4 days off, but we're ready to crack on now right the way through to the World Cup. But we're not going to be joined in the United States of America, Mexico and Canada by the Welsh, the Irish or the Northern Irish, all crashed out last night. What happened?
Well, listen, I'm not surprised by Northern Ireland. It was always a tough game against Italy. I thought Wales would get through against Bosnia and then probably lose in the final. They had enough chances to put that game to bed, didn't take them. Brennan Johnson's penalty sort of epitomises his season, doesn't it? Devoid of confidence. I'm not sure why he was trying to pick out the top corner in that circumstance, but that was the key moment. I know Nico Williams went on to miss as well, but it felt like the tie slipped away with Johnson's kick. And the Republic, 2-0 up away from home, they've got to see that through them. They've just given the manager a new contract. That was a shocker for me.
They might have been a little bit unlucky, actually. I mean, it was a horrible game, set pieces, lots of shirt pulling. Tell Ryan Manning about that. Grappling, penalties, own goals. Ireland it was basically a war in Prague, actually, that game. They led 2-0, but whereas I think with the other two, it felt like a little bit of a knockback, actually. Northern Ireland haven't been to a World Cup since 1986. Wales looked as if they were going to at least get to the final this time around. I think from how Grimson found them when he first walked in the door to where they are now, it feels a little bit like growth for the Republic of Ireland.
Yeah, and I think just to sum up all the teams and the countries, it is disappointing. It is a real shame that they've not at least got through to the final and definitely won't be there in the World Cup in the summer. I think with Northern Ireland, it was always going to be very, very difficult to go to Italy. And look, it's a very poor Italian side at the moment, but still, to go there and expect to get something out of that, they were well organised. And it took a bit of class, a bit of Premier League and Champions League class to break the deadlock. I think with the Republic of Ireland, they'll be really disappointed to put themselves in such a position. It's one thing to be away from home, and that was always going to be difficult. It was seen as, look, get through that. You play at home in the final, no matter who you play. I think Denmark would be a very good side because they won convincingly as well. But to go 2-0 up and not see the game out, again, that's disappointing. I think the biggest disappointment, and I don't mean as in they are a disappointment, but for Wales to not get through, they were going to be at home in both games, the semi-final and the final. They were expected to do this. I think I like Craig Bellamy, what he's done. You can clearly see they're so lacking a striker. They've got really good attacking players, but to not see that game out, desperately needed the second goal, and then to lose on penalties. I respect anyone who takes a penalty, Sam. Anyone who criticises, anyone.
Why are you looking at him when you said that?
Well, because he just did. Hasn't taken a penalty in front of 50,000 on top of your whole country watching as well. So
not having the best of games either, Brennan Johnson.
It was a tough watch right from the very start, actually. If you want to react to it, by the way, you can send us a WhatsApp 03717 223344. You can text us 81089, or you can call us 03717 223344. That's the number to call. I thought it was an attritional game, the Wales game, especially towards the end. The Bosnians really time wasting and delaying the restarts consistently. I actually sent Crook a text message last night when they added 4 minutes on at the end of the second period of extra time. And I said, think about that for a second. What you're basically saying is if this was the second half, you'd be having 12 minutes of injury time. That's how much there was in terms of delay and sort of
very physical in the first half as well.
Very physical. It was an attritional game. I think great save from Darlow, I thought, in the second half. Poor marking for the equaliser from Edin Dzeko, who is 40, by the way. Was a little bit surprised that Nathan Broadhead didn't get off the bench, especially in extra time, and with a penalty in mind. I was a bit surprised about the order of the penalty takers as well. But where do Wales go next? Because in his post-match interview, Craig Bellamy suggested that the future was bright for Wales, but will he be part of it? He has a contract till 2028.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's home Euros in 2028 as well, which will come into his thinking. But I've been hearing whispers for a few months now that if Wales didn't qualify for this World Cup, then potentially Bellamy would come into the conversation for Burnley, should they decide to make a change of manager. He was Vincent Kompany's number 2. They wanted to keep him, actually, when Scott Parker came in. So I think it's certainly one to watch. And I guess his decision is, has he taken Wales as far as that he can? Because there aren't any Gareth Bale-style superstars around the corner, are there? The one I feel sorry for in the Wales squad is Harry Wilson, who played really well. He's hit the woodwork in that game yesterday. He is having the season of his life and going to the World Cup would have crowned it nicely.
What a goal by Daniel James.
Oh, brilliant.
That was absolute stunning. Everyone was sort of like silent for about a second because they didn't realise that it had gone in because he hit it so early.
Well, I think the keeper was the same, wasn't he? And people say, oh, well, he slipped and he would have saved that if he hadn't have slipped. But he slipped because the shot was early and it was a great strike. So, again, it was one of those where, yeah, really, I think attritional is a good word at half-time. It's like, just keep doing what you're doing, try and step it up even more. He talked about playing with intensity. They got that goal. They hit the woodwork twice, didn't they, over the whole 90 minutes. So I think if they'd have got that second goal, then they would have done it. But if's a big word, isn't it? It's only 2 letters, but big word.
Why would Craig Bellamy turn down the opportunity to lead his nation at a home nation European Championship?
Well, if I were him, and I'm not going to tell him what to do, but I would absolutely stay in place. And not just because, obviously, it's going to be like a home nation. And can you imagine how much the atmosphere is, how good it's going to be in 2 years' time? But also for his own personal development. Once he's become a club manager, and he will become a club manager, you can see. And I think what's really been good for him in the Wales job is that Craig Bellamy, the player, is very different to Craig Bellamy, the manager. He's very thoughtful, very studious. You can see he's incredibly passionate. He wants to stay calm as much as possible. You can clearly see he's worked on himself. A brilliant player, but we know, he could go off the rails at any given time. But I think he's shown to the world he will be a very, very good manager. But in terms of his personal development as a manager, making decisions, was this the right thing to do? Was this the right philosophy? Were these the right subs? He's still learning at the moment.
Okay, well, a couple of questions there. First of all, that I think you're absolutely right. He's a completely different character now. And if you spend any time with him, he talks a lot about the fact that he works from the minute he wakes up in the morning. He's got an office overlooking Dragon Park. He's on the FWA training ground very, very often. He's there all the time. It's a full-time job, proper full-time job for him, as it would be. But it is his first real role in management. Why is it better for him to develop as the Wales manager rather than go into club management when he's working with the players on a day-to-day basis?
Look, they are 2 different jobs, but you can't say they're completely different because you're still managing players and you're still trying to find tactics against the opposition. The in-game management, something which I think Gareth Southgate, still looking back overall, did a great job, but that's the biggest criticism against him. It's about just understanding situations and how you're dealing with the media. By the way, I think he's dealing with the media superbly. I think the way he talks both before and after a game, you can see he's very, very considered and he's worked on himself with that. But he's still, in terms of what he's got behind him now,
he's still learning.
He's still a very young manager.
And also,
why not just keep with it?
Once you go into the club world, that's it. You're in the club world, and that he's going to have a club career anyway. Nothing that happens in the next 2 years is going to stop him from having a club career. No.
And that Burnley job, that Burnley job may well come up in 2 years' time, or if not Burnley, another job. So jobs, as we well know, jobs come up all the time in the Premier League, which might be a bit of a step too far, but you don't know if he does really well in the 2028 Euros. Or a good championship club. It will definitely warrant one of those.
Is there also something a little bit more stable and a little bit more secure about being a national team manager? The reason that Thomas Tuchel, that Carlo Ancelotti, that Roberto Martinez have all pursued careers in international management, Pochettino as well, is because they got frustrated with this constant carousel that comes with coaching at the top level in club football.
I think so, especially if you are a national legend, as Craig Bellamy is for his days as a player with Wales, especially when you are seem to be building as Craig Bellamy is. All I would say is that Burnley, and listen, Scott Parker is a friend of ours. He's still on a job at the moment, so we don't want to necessarily say that vacancy will definitely become available. But they are a football club who tend to be patient. They've been patient with Scott Parker this season.
I think they will continue to be patient with him. I think the owners are pretty committed to Scott.
So they
Parker,
should, by the way. Perfect guy.
Job, yeah.
They will go down, but perfect guy to try and get them back up. And then they need to decide what they're going to do going forward. But, you know, a job like Burnley will come up for Craig.
I don't want to antagonise Wales fans even more when they're suffering this morning, but there is a possibility they don't qualify for that home Euros because only 2 spaces are reserved for the home nations. They're all going to go through qualifying. This is going to sound arrogant, but England will qualify. But if Scotland, the Republic of Ireland and Wales don't qualify, then only 2 of them will obviously be given a space.
How many teams in the European Championships?
You would say that about this World Cup. I mean, if you can't qualify for this World Cup,
there's more teams.
You're struggling, aren't you?
More European teams in the European Championships than there are at the World Cup. I think they'll qualify.
No, I mean, Crookie's right to bring it up. There is a possibility that they won't. But he can't think like that. You know what you know at this particular
He'll be confident that he can.
Well, hindsight's a wonderful thing.
I hear that England were going to give up their automatic place and they were going to try and...
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and rightly so. I don't think you want to be playing friendlies for 2 years.
No, but again...
That still possibly only leaves 2 from 3 if Scotland, the Republic and Wales miss out in qualification.
Sam, in life, all we can do is make decisions with the knowledge we have right now. And Craig Bellamy will absolutely back his squad. Yes, he could do with a striker, but there's some very good young players coming through, as well as some very good attacking midfielders that they have. He will back himself that he will get Wales qualified.
03717 223344 is the number to call. Were you behind the Welsh, the Northern Irish and the Irish last night? Are you a supporter that has no affinity with the other UK and Irish nations? There will be supporters that are half Irish, half English, half Welsh, whatever, or have families that are blended with different nationalities that I'm sure were watching last night and getting behind the Welsh. There'll be some that were teasing their Welsh compatriots. I think Gabby Agbonlahor said this morning that actually Wales probably weren't prepared to go to the World Cup and wouldn't have made an impact if they had been there. Do you disagree with that? 03717 223344. That's the number to call. You can text us 81089. Your reaction to last night's football. We want to hear from it. We'll talk about Ireland as well and how they got on last night and what the future holds for Hal Grimson, who has already got a contract to the end of the European Championships. This is talkSPORT with Sam Matterface, Alex Crook and Scott Minto and Selco. It's Where the Trade Go.
Will that result have put a little bit of a seed of doubt in the Arsenal players in terms of the Championship run-in?
You said will it give a bit of doubt for Arsenal now going into the league?
No, I don't think so. I actually think it could work in our favour because you're seeing the amount of players that are being pulled out of their international teams. Sounds to me like Mikel's going, guys, I'm going to need you fit here. And if you're looking at the players that are not included, they're the players that are pretty much certified to play for their countries anyway. The likes of Gabriel, the likes of...
Are you okay with that, though? Players turning down their country?
Absolutely fine with it, mate. Right now, put it this way. If you do well for Arsenal, you're guaranteed to play for your nation anyway. So I think the only players that are not going to miss out on the opportunity are those that are on the fringes.
But as, say, your Ancelotti and Gabriel's not turned up, do you not see that as turning you back on your country?
No, because the reality is he knows what's at stake over there. Ancelotti's a winner. You know, we have to start winning. It's actually going to be good for the national team once Arsenal start winning.
Does that result, though, on Sunday put doubt in your mind to win the Champions League? You know, like big one-off games, and Arsenal haven't showed up.
No, I don't see why it should. I mean, if I'm honest with you, I'm not even going to the next round of Champions League games. I'm not going to the Sporting games.
Why?
Because we should be beating those teams. We've got it in the bag.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Just like that?
Just like that. And you know what? That loss is going to help us because now the attitude is, look, we have no choice but to win. There's a higher expectation now. We can look at the situation with the goalkeeper, and I've had time to reflect, right? Yeah. I was really upset on Sunday, because you were messaging me, right? Really upset.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, you're not sorry. But I look at that and I go, you know what? Now is the time now. You don't owe anyone anything, Mikel.
Thank you very much, by the way, for all your text messages this morning. Some people being very nice, which is very kind. Yeah, actually.
Not to me, I wouldn't imagine.
David actually does say, awesome show, as always, lads. Congratulations to Sam on his Commentator of the Year nomination, and congratulations to Alex Goldbridge on his nomination, too. From Isle of Man Dave. Steve Gooding says, lads, the only thing funnier than the Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland and Wales going out is Sam's jacket. Tell him the 70s won it back. That's from Steve in Sunderland. Thank you very much. Nice to see that you're watching on YouTube or Facebook or on our connected TV app. Morning, guys, says Fraser. Great show. I'm Scottish and I felt for all three teams last night. We've been there so many times, so close, but not to be. Would have been great to have all four there. That's Fraser in Scotland. Jamie, Northern Ireland team average age is only 22. Was always going to be tough to beat Italy away, but it was a good performance and good signs for the future. Yeah, we wanted to touch on that, didn't we? Because Michael O'Neill, only 7 games into his tenure, says there's more positives than negatives to take from last night's defeat against Italy.
Yeah, look, there's a lot. It's hard when you lose a game to realise the positives. The players are disappointed, and you have to feel that disappointment with them as well. But look, for a nation of our size to come with a team of that age, play as we did, there's a lot more positives. The difficulty is, as I say, is having depth in our squad to deal with when players are not available to us. And that's something that will take a bit of time. There's no way to fast track that. We just have to be patient. And as I say, when we reflect on the game and what we've had in this campaign overall, to be here at the playoff stage, to play the way we played in the group, as I say, we have a lot more things to be positive about.
It is fascinating, isn't it? I mean, if you look back at the average age, obviously, he's already mentioned 22.5 years. It's the country's second youngest on record since World War II. Paddy McNair was the only player over the age of 24, and they were missing key players as well, weren't they? In Conor Bradley, in Trey Hume, and Ali McCann.
Yeah, he's done a terrific job, not just this time around, but I think what he achieved first time, Michael O'Neill, should not be underestimated, because obviously they don't have the resource, Northern Ireland, of even the likes of Wales and Scotland and the Republic. So to even get them competitive, to get them into a playoff situation, I think is a tremendous achievement. It sounds like he's going to stay on and try and rebuild. And
he sort of said he wanted to stay beyond the summer, didn't he?
Obviously, he's doubling up with Blackburn at the moment, so we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I don't think Northern Ireland lose too much in defeat against Italy last night.
No, I don't think anyone really expected Northern Ireland to do that. I mean, this is not a good Italian side, but still, the fact that they've had to go to Italy, and you talk about those players. You know, this is a nation that has less than 2 million people in the population. So even just getting to the playoffs, you can't really say it's an achievement because they haven't gone. You know what the aim is, but still, the job that Michael has done, and absolutely, you can chuck in Dan Ballard there as well, who wasn't around, who's been a big player. So, you know, they were what you would expect from a Michael O'Neill side. They were well organised, they pressed really well, and it just took that one sort of great strike, that one moment of brilliance.
What a hit, by the way, that was from Tonali. Didn't play at the weekend, but boy, did he smack that. They're not a great team, though, Italy, are they? And I think when it comes to to the World Cup, it's great that they're there because Italy is a big nation, bring a lot of support. There's a big American-Italian community, especially on the eastern seaboard of the United States of America. So I think it'll be great for the tournament.
If they get there.
They're not a great team. They've got to beat Bosnia yet. There's no guarantees that they're going to get past them.
I think they'll beat Bosnia, won't they, surely? I think a World Cup is better with Italy, even if it's not a brilliant Italian side.
In terms of the Republic of Ireland, best wishes to Sami Smojic, by the way. He was knocked unconscious following an aerial collision in the second half of extra time, with his manager later confirming, actually, that he was conscious in hospital. But defeat in Prague marks the country's 6th successive failed bid to reach the World Cup. They're no strangers to penalty pain. However, in the build-up to the game, Jaime Hallgrimsson said that his team were not going to practice penalties and not going to do a lot of work on penalties because he didn't think it would make a difference. Those words are going to come back to haunt him now, Scott.
Why would you admit that publicly? Even if it's true, if you know there's a possibility that your fate could be decided on penalties, just duck the question. Lie if you have to and say, yeah, we're going to do a bit of work on the training ground. There's nothing positive to come from him making that.
No, the actual quote was, I'm not so sure that training penalties would be such an asset, especially when you look at the short time we have. Other things are more important.
No, he has to own it. If he's not practicing, then it's going to come out somehow. So he can't sort of hide from it.
He said that before the match.
Exactly. Though. You know, I couldn't disagree more. It used to be sort of back in the day, oh, well, you can't replicate that kind of atmosphere. And the best example I give is Johnny Wilkinson. You know, how many times and I appreciate what he's saying about you've not got the time that, say, a Johnny Wilkinson do, but in moments of pressure where your legs feel like jelly, you're saying, do I go bottom left, top right, down the middle? What do I do? The keeper suddenly is looking like he's wearing Ronald McDonald gloves on and, you know, there's no way I'm going to score past him. You rely on your technique. You rely on what you've practiced. And I don't care if you've only had 2 days to practice, you will still just nail it 5, 10 penalties each day. Right, that's the way I'm going to go. Worry about if you get to penalties before or preparing for the next game.
It doesn't take that long to practice penalties, does it?
Doesn't.
To be honest.
It really doesn't. So,
do you know what's really interesting, though? You say that. I mean, I did a anniversary piece a couple of years ago with the Chelsea team that won the 2012 European Champions League in Munich on penalties. And they had this whole discussion. They had a massive plan about what they were going to do if it went to penalties and who was going to take it and who was going to put it where and the science behind taking it across your body and all this kind of stuff. And one matter, I think he was up to take the first penalty and he had to go across his body. I can't remember which way it was because Neuer only likes going to a certain side. And it was all decided he was going to go up there and do that. And he said he just got up there, panicked, didn't know what to do, just hit it and missed.
Well, there you go.
And that's one of the most experienced and best players that they had at the time.
And you know what? I just want to try and get people to think about the players who are missing. One, how badly they're feeling right now, but also two, the pressure. You know, it's one thing to do it in a Champions League final, and obviously that's massive because the world is watching. But you're doing this for your country. You know, you're wearing your country's shirt, and you know that everybody.
You've got to be brave to put your hand up in the first.
You have to be so brave.
You did concede off air though that Brennan Johnson maybe shouldn't have been aiming for the top corner.
No, it's not about conceding off air. I've said, and I was been happy to say, which is why I've said to you, bring it up. If you are nervous, if you're not 100% sure, then just play the percentages. even if you have to nail it down the middle.
03717 223344. Lots of calls to get to about this and last night's football. We'll do that next with Selco Builders Warehouse.
This season, the recruitment's not worked. They tried to replace Isak with two strikers, Visser and Voltamada, who've both struggled. I actually think Visser is better than people give him credit for. He just needs a good run. Ilanga doesn't play well often enough, flat to deceive. So who was in charge of recruitment? Who did that? There's a question. The other big problem they've got, and where Eddie's problem, I like Eddie a lot, me watching Newcastle as long as I have this season, and they're a great watch generally because they go after teams, play high energy. But their second half performances and results in a league table, they'd be 16th. And that's because they're not adaptable. They're trying to mix a European campaign and a Premier League campaign.
Yeah.
Playing this 100 miles an hour. Now, you need a supreme squad of athletes to play that way. I don't see often enough Newcastle go, today we're going to go, let's be a bit more pragmatic. And it's great at home. It works sometimes.
Isn't it a constant trend for Newcastle? Every time they qualify for a Champions League season,
to struggle a bit.
They struggle in the rest of the season. Yeah. I think the first season when they qualify for the Champions League,
That's my point, because of the style.
So it is a Champions League situation. It's a squad situation.
Amount of games, yeah.
And also, at the beginning of the season, Newcastle were very poor away from home. Yeah. They weren't able to get any points in the first sort of 5, 6, 7, 8 games in terms of or score any goals. And that may play in some of it.
And of course, it might get worse before it gets better, because if there's no European football for Newcastle United, it might be goodbye to some of the big names, Bruno Guimaraes, Sandro Tonali, to name but two.
Craig Bellamy says he's very proud but definitely disappointed after Wales suffered World Cup penalty shootout heartbreak in their playoff at the hands of Bosnia. Gabby Agbonlahor reckons it's actually a good thing they didn't get through.
The last World Cup, I was there and I went to some of the Wales games. They were poor. Do you know what I mean? I just feel like Wales, the squad of players they've got, probably not ready for another World Cup.
Northern Ireland suffered a 2-0 defeat in Italy to also crash out at the playoff stage. Michael O'Neill said his players carried a terrific attitude throughout.
It's a very young team. I think the average age of the team is 22 years of age, which is incredibly positive for us to come here against an experienced team like Italy.
The Republic of Ireland were denied by spot kicks too, going down to the Czech Republic. Now, don't boo Ben is the message Thomas Tuchel is giving to England fans as the England defender returns to the squad tonight in their friendly with Uruguay. Our England correspondent, Faye Carruthers, spoke to Ben White's teammate Noni Madueke yesterday.
He said he was really delighted to be called back up for England and proud, and that, you know, he's actually a really good character behind the scenes, and perhaps we haven't seen that from Ben White in an England shirt.
And Luke Littler silenced fans in Berlin with an epic double Big Fish checkout to beat Michael van Gerwen. That's 2 treble 20s followed by a bullseye. He did that twice. It's back-to-back Premier League wins for the world number 1, who's now 2 points clear of Johnny Clayton at the top of the table. There's more. There's always more at talkSPORT.com.
It's talkSPORT. Breaking news in the last few minutes that Bristol City have sacked their manager and they've replaced him with a former England gaffer. Roy Hodgson is back in charge at Bristol City for the first time since 1982. That was when he was last in charge at Ashton Gate.
The year I was born.
And he is back until the end of the season.
Chance,
Alex Crook, are you surprised by that? Was that on your bingo card for this morning?
Not necessarily. I mean, I was just looking there. They are languishing in mid-table. Bristol City obviously started the season really well and were in and amongst the playoff picture, even coming into the turn of the year. So they have fallen away. But it's a strange appointment, isn't it? Obviously, he's got that historical tie to the football club. Let's see what he can do in the final 7 or 8 games. I think one to watch for the summer would be John Mousinho at Portsmouth, who was on their list previously.
Oh, don't say that.
Don't
say that.
You look at the tone of his interviews in the last few weeks, I think he realises that maybe...
I know.
I'm not having it, by the way.
What,
I'm not having he was born in 72.
82. John Mousinho's done a brilliant job at Portsmouth, by the way, on a budget which is very, very low in comparison to the rest of the Championship. Rich Hughes is also part of the sort of management team there, has done an excellent job as well. But Roy Hodgson back in charge again. It's like so Martin O'Neill's back, Roy Hodgson is back. Are we going to see Harry Redknapp back before the end of the season? Maybe that should have been on our bingo card for this weekend. We did talk about that a little bit earlier on today. Let's go to Liam, who's a Chelsea fan and a Northern Ireland fan. Hello. Liam, hello.
Hi there, Sam. Really good to see you, and big shout out to you guys, especially Scott Minto. You're a Chelsea legend, mate. So just want to let you know that.
He certainly is. Chelsea legend, says Liam.
So I'm just putting the earpiece in there.
Well, nice to see you both. Both of you. Chelsea legend, but both.
Liam, thank you, mate. That's very kind of you.
What do you want to say about Northern Ireland last night?
Well, it's actually the Republic of Ireland, but sure, look, it was a disappointing result last night, and look, I think just the mistake from Manning didn't help when we got that second goal. We could have just been had it 10 minutes just to just have the ball, keep possession, and that mistake didn't help. And I think Kelleher could have, done better on the second goal, especially looking after that near post. But it is disappointing. And, look, I think, though, every cloud has a silver lining. And I think just this result, yes, it hurts. But I think, there's a decent squad there to build up upon and to try and get more resilient and stronger. So, look, just the only way is up. But, still a tough pill to digest, really.
Liam, thank you very much. Appreciate that. 037172233
Good call. Good call.
Frank in Newcastle, what do you want to say about Ireland?
Hello?
Hello, how are you?
Is this Jim?
It's not Jim. I think you can probably tell that by the accent. It's close, though.
Were you watching the match last night, Jim?
Yeah. What did you think about the game then, Don?
Sure, I can hardly even remember. We had so many feet of pints. I don't even remember what happened. But it was a good match. I thought we played well. It was a good match. I thought, look, it's Heartbreak Hotel in Ireland, isn't it, for years, really, since 2002. And I'll be honest with you, Jim, I'm a bit starstruck. I've been calling in for the last 6 or 7 years, and you never answer my phone calls, so I'm a bit starstruck at the moment,
Well, I'm pleased that you got to speak to Jim White, your hero, because it's made your day. Thank you very much. Cheers, Frank. 03717.
Tell you what, Jim wouldn't wear that jacket, by the way.
By the way, we had a tweet from Wollaston Village FC. It says that my jacket reminds them of a Ford Escort interior from 1970.
Bang out of order.
Do you know what?
Bang out of order.
Absolutely true. Let's speak to Lawrence Mora, who is our South Wales and Bristol area correspondent. He spends a lot of time at Ashton Gate watching Swansea, Cardiff, Bristol City and the like. And I wonder what his reaction is to the news that Roy Hodgson, the former England manager, is now back in charge at Bristol City. Lawrence, good morning to you. Were you expecting this morning?
Good morning, Sam. What a day. Wales crashing out of the World Cup last night, and now Roy Hodgson coming into Bristol City. This is turning into quite a few days. But to be honest, you kind of got the feeling that Gerhard Struber's time with Bristol City was coming to an end. It felt like there was a little bit of loggerheads in terms of his ambitions at the club and how the club was being run. You certainly he had a great start to the season. There was a lot of positivity where Bristol City were knocking around the playoffs. It was looking good. Then January came. He pitched it early. The strikers were coming in. He was very happy with what they were going to be doing. By the end of the January transfer window, it was a complete mess at Bristol City. The CEO was leaving. There were last-minute transfers coming in. Mehmeti had gone to join Ipswich. Viner had gone to join Wrexham. A host of other players have moved out as well. Loan players being brought in. And Struber, you could tell, was hugely and deeply frustrated.
What precipitated that change of approach? Why did they sell Anis Mehmeti and the other players that clearly he wanted to keep? And why did the CEO leave? What was the reason behind that?
Yeah, well, so in terms of Mehmeti and Viner, their contracts were running down. They were out at the end of the season. So in a business sense, it was a good deal for the club. They had to take the money then. They got good money for both those players. So in a world, it was probably a good deal. The problem is that they didn't get the deals done in the summer. They didn't manage to get those transfers and those contracts sorted in the summer.
And didn't replace them sufficiently.
And didn't replace them suspicious. Yeah, exactly that. There was still hope that they would sign contracts, of course, when that didn't happen, and also when other players didn't come in. And I think it was very telling that Zach Viner, in one of his interviews early on for Wrexham, just talked about how pleased he was that he was joining a club with real ambition. And I think that struck really at the heart of all the Bristol City fans and the club itself as well. And there's been a lot of pressure in and around. A new CEO has come in, Charlie Boss, so they're looking for a sporting director. They're changing the shape again of the club at the hierarchy going forward. So I possibly see Roy Hodgson as that man just stepping into the breach to see Bristol City through to the end of the season.
Lawrence, I don't think you've had any sleep, have you? I heard you this morning at just after 6 o'clock. I was texting you a little bit after that as well. And now you're back on here. But I'm looking at the table and Bristol City, they can't go up. They can't go down. You've just talked about what's gone on behind the scenes and January as well. It's saying Struber's sacked, but actually could it be one of those where he's walked behind the scene or created a kind of an argument? Because I don't really see the point in them doing anything here because, you know, Roy Hodgson, great experience, of course, but what's he expected to achieve here? Just wait till the end of the season?
The playoffs? They've got no chance, have they?
Absolutely no chance, and they can't go down either. I just find it strange that they haven't just said, you know what, it's going to happen, just going to be mid-table, we'll wait till the end of the season. But the fact that they've made a decision like this on Struber, has anything happened behind the scenes?
Yeah, so like I say, Struber was very vocal in his annoyance at what happened in January. And then I was at the game on Saturday covering it for talkSPORT where they played West Brom. They lost 1-0. The first half performance was abject. Second half, he could barely get the players to have it. So it did feel like when Struber came out to speak post-match, he was deeply frustrated and quite angry. And during that match, there were chants from the East End of sack the board. And some chance against Steve Lansdown, the owner. Look, he's been there and done an unbelievable amount of work for Bristol City, Steve Lansdown. So for the fans or a certain section of fans, let's not tar everybody with that brush, but for a certain section of the fans to go after the owner, look, it shows that there's some divisions there and some bridges that need healing. And maybe Struber, at this point, it could well be that he's walked and to get with trying to find out more as this news breaks.
How attractive is this job come the summer? Because you mentioned Struber's frustrations. I know it's not worked out brilliantly for him since he left, but I understand Liam Manning had many of the same frustrations in terms of a lack of investment. Now, Steve Lansdown has been a brilliant owner for Bristol City. He has bankrolled previous managers, most notably Lee Johnson, to try and achieve that Premier League dream. Is he still as committed financially as he was back then?
Oh, I think that's I think so. Financially committed, yes. In terms of he will absolutely cover those losses. Bristol City are now sort of the fifth biggest match day revenue. He's built an incredible stadium. He has got an incredible new training centre for Bristol City. So in many ways, the club is light years ahead of where it was when he came in. So he's done so much good there, but there is that frustration of how do you bridge that next gap? How do you go from that mid-table championship into a regular playoff contender for the Premier League? And that takes a lot of money and a lot of investment. There has been talk, I think we've contacted each other before, Alex, in terms of potential investment coming into Bristol City. Steve has very openly said that he's open for either new investment or even to sell the club. So yeah, they're out there looking at the moment for a sporting director. It feels like they're going with a new direction behind the scenes there. Richard Scudamore, the old Premier League chairman, is also involved at Bristol City in a consultant's capacity. So there's plenty going on, and it feels like maybe Roy Hodgson is that steady hand on the tiller just for a few months.
Lawrence, thank you very much. 1 win in 9, defeat to Port Vale in the FA Cup as well. Gerhard Struber is out the door at Ashton Gate, and in comes Roy Hodgson, the former England manager. Bristol City fans, if you want to react to that, 03717 722 Morning, folks. Enjoying the show. As per, I wasn't supporting them, and I don't care about the fact that they're out. Weren't good enough on the night, and they have been dancing in the street. They would have been dancing in the street if it was us, England. Just think back to that video of the Wales players celebrating the Iceland defeat. End of the day, they're our rivals. At least now they can focus on their true passions. Ghana, Croatia, Panama, and whoever else we play this summer. Come on, England. That's from one texter this morning. I'm sure not everyone feels like that, but you never know. This is Talk Sport. We've got Jamie George joining us next to talk about a massive weekend of rugby.
see North London. Can you hear me, Spurs? You must have Jamie O'Hara, kicking. Can you oh my God, what's going on? Oh my God. Can you hear me, chicky? You'll make the one hell of a beating. Can you hear me encouraging signs? Signs. Can you hear me signs? You'll make the one hell of a beating, Beavertown Brewery. 3 Point Lake. I do you a favour. The Sainsbury's Stadium. The big cockerel. Can you hear me, cockerel? You'll make the one hell of a beating to Darius Defoe. Help me out. Spurs. You'll make the one hell of a beating. Has anyone seen the Gunners? Mike Keown. Can you hear me, Keown? You're going to win a hell of a beating, Kepper. That Lucas MP. Eagle for the forever. Gunnosaurus. Kepper. Arteta's light bulb. Can you hear me, light bulb? You're going to win a hell of a beat with the dog. What's up to him? He's alive. Can you hear me, Arsenal? You're going to win it.
You are useless. Honestly, you're a shambles of a man. What a weekend of football. Spurs. Oh, my word. What on earth happened? What is going on at this football club? We're going down. Spurs are going down. Chelsea disrespected the ball again. What's happening to them? They're in shambles. Arsenal, they bottled it in the League Cup final. Does Arteta need to take the blame for starting Kepa in goal?
It is talkSPORT. It's Sam Matterface, Alex Crook and Scott Minto. Will continue to take your reaction to the news that Roy Hodgson has been confirmed as the manager to the end of the season at Bristol City. They sack Gerhard Struber after one win in 9. And it is Roy Hodgson who's in the door until the end of the season. It's a big weekend of Gallagher Premier action. Round 3 of the Gallagher Premiership, round 12, of the Gallagher Premiership will be held at the UK stadiums this Saturday with large crowds expected. Begins with the first ever Gallagher Prem match to be played at Villa Park, the home of Aston Villa. Gloucester Rugby facing off against Leicester Tigers for the Ed Slater Cup. The home of Welsh Rugby, Cardiff's Principality Stadium, will see the Bristol Bears take on Harlequins in big day out before Saracens host Northampton Saints for this year's showdown at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It's a little bit like Rugby League's Magic Weekend, but spread across the country at huge stadiums and with big attendances. Let's speak to Jamie George, the England and Saracens hooker, who joins us now. Hi, Jamie.
Morning, guys.
Thank you very much for coming on the programme. How does it feel to be part of a weekend which is designed, I suppose, to propel club rugby into the mainstream conversation?
Yeah, I think it's exactly what we want to be trying to do with the game at the minute. I think there's a lot of talk about how much interest there was off the back of the Six Nations. Obviously, it didn't go so well for us with England, but I thought it was one of the best tournaments, the best competitions, the best Six Nations that has been for a long time. So, I feel like the interest in rugby union at the minute is very high, and we need to try and be able to transfer that into the Prem now. So, showcases like this and the opportunity to play at amazing stadiums like Villa Park, which I'm an Aston Villa fan, so it'd probably be the only time that I wish that I was a Gloucester or Leicester player. It's a great opportunity for us to play on the biggest stages, and it'd be the closest thing that we can get to international rugby on the club stage, I suppose.
And the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for you, and Saracens coming off a heavy 62-15 loss to Bath last week. They're facing the league leaders, the Northampton Saints. It's a massive ask. Is this bonanza atmosphere exactly what your group needs?
Yeah, I think, we love playing at the Tottenham Stadium. We play there once a year. It's a big occasion for us. We were very disappointed in the way that we played and performed last week. It wasn't us in any way, shape or form. So I think regardless of what field we were playing on, we'd be looking for a great reaction. But I think it's brilliant that we're able to then put that out on, in front of hopefully 45,000 fans at the Tottenham Stadium.
Jamie, I have to ask you about England as well. Obviously, a really disappointing Six Nations campaign, worst ever in that competition, ended with that 48-46 loss to France. How do you feel now about the future of the national side moving forward?
Yeah, look, I think that there is no hiding the fact that we were very disappointed with the performances and the results in particular. I think, reflecting back on it, I think the Scotland and Ireland performances were the ones that we were probably most disappointed about. I think we saw a reaction. I think we were a lot more like the sort of team that we wanted to be against Italy. And we were close against France. So, I'm still hugely optimistic about where the team can go. I think you look at the age profile, if you take me out of it in particular, the age profile of the team is a very good one. We've got a lot of good young players in this team who are, exciting, and, we're excited about where the team can go.
Need experience, Jamie, so don't put yourself down in that way. I mean, I talk about Chelsea and the experience that they need as well. But, I mean, it is an incredible emotional shift from that 11-game winning streak to just that one win in 5, although there are a lot of positives to take out of that last game against France, you say. But how do you physically and mentally reset as well for club duty in such a short space of time?
Yeah, look, I think it's always a bit of a challenge coming away from that. I think you spoke about the emotional toll that it takes. Mentally, we feel very strained, but we get looked after really well. And I think it helps massively coming back into a challenging time at Saracens, but we're a really positive club, and, it's great to be back in there. And, hopefully we can then propel our season moving forward now and make a big push to make top 4. And, it's the last 16 of Europe next week. So, a really exciting time to be back at the club, and hopefully we can put a few wrongs right this weekend against a very good Northampton team.
You've already announced that you're going to retire at the end of the 2026-27 season. That's 18 months' time. So there's still every opportunity for you to make more of an impact at Saracens. You've been there for 17 plus years, but also maybe go to that World Cup in 20 27 as well. As a former captain, what's your relationship like with Steve Borthwick? And do you believe that he's the man to lead England forward into that tournament?
Oh, my relationship couldn't be better with Steve. I actually played with Steve for 4 or 5 years at the start of my Saracens career, and he's one of, if not the best coaches that I've ever worked with. I think he's an incredible coach. He's an incredible rugby brain. Very clever guy who is hurting over the fact that the performances and the results didn't go our way, but he is absolutely the right man to take us forward, not just to the 2027 World Cup, but moving forward for that. I think you can see his passion, you can see how much it means to him, and he's got the backing and respect of every single one of the players and that's been involved in that England team over the last however many years.
What do you make of Martin Johnson's suggestion that certain key players should be given this summer to rest and recuperate?
Yeah, I think there's obviously a fine line, isn't it? Professional sport is challenging, it's difficult. Rugby in particular is very physically and emotionally demanding, but I think we are off the back of, as we've spoken about, 1 in 5 wins over the last 5 games. We need to make sure that we get back on the right track. So I can't imagine that too many players will be getting rested. There's no bigger challenge than going to South Africa, the best team in the world at the minute, and taking them on in Johannesburg. So I can imagine that there'll be a pretty full strength team going out there. And, we have a huge amount of history with South Africa, given the last World Cup and, everything else since that. So, there's a really exciting prospect for us to be going down to South Africa and playing them on their home turf. We haven't done it since 2018. So I can imagine there'll be a fair few players that are very excited at that prospect too.
Supporters probably looking forward to it as well. Just a quick word before we let you go, just very quickly. I mentioned that you'd announced that you're going to retire in 18 months' time. Why did you do it so early?
I just thought it was pretty obvious, really, to be honest. I'm 35 now. My ambitions are very much to go to the World Cup. I wanted to do 1 more year with Saracens, and then I would love to go to a 4th World Cup. And I fully believe that this England team are going to be right up there at the end of the World Cup. So the reason why I announced it so early was because it was probably going to be pretty obvious that it would be my last year. So it just allows me to enjoy and embrace the last 18 months and really throw all of myself into it.
Good luck. Let's hope it ends with you winning the World Cup. See you later. Thanks, Jamie. Appreciate that.
Guys.
We've got live commentary on talkSPORT 2 of Gloucester against Leicester from Villa Park, 1 o'clock on Saturday. Bristol Bears against Harlequins, Saracens against Northampton Saints, all on talkSPORT 2. The big match bonanza this Saturday, live on talkSPORT 2. We'll talk about England against Uruguay, which is tonight live on talkSPORT 7:45. We'll do that next.
It's understood that Chelsea do not plan to review Rosenior's performance formally before the summer of 2027. They have no intention of making a change at the end of the season. Chelsea view this summer as being critical in terms of recruitment. The club's desperate to improve the mental resilience of the squad and provide Rosenior with a better balance of options. Chelsea will look to sign at least 1 new central defender, and they want to sign a midfielder or add a midfielder and a forward as well. We know all that, Danny, but we also know a run of 1 win in the last 6 Premier League games. Many Chelsea fans are far from happy about the way things are going. So, Simon, Danny, no Champions League, no problem for Liam Rosenior, it seems. Should we believe it?
No, I struggle to believe that wholeheartedly. I think no Champions League for Chelsea would be a failure for them, especially if there's 5 places. And I think that the fans will become very disgruntled if that's the case. I do feel like whoever was in there, whoever was put in there, would face similar problems. If you look at what we've talked about many times, the squad being so young, you see the amount of sendings off they have, the ill discipline, the extremes of performance, brilliant one week, poor the next. That's hard for anyone to go in there and get better consistency with the dynamic of the squad.
talkSPORT Sports Update powered by the Nissan Van range. Commercial vehicles built around your business. Search Nissan Vans or head to your local Nissan Van Centre.
A very good morning. You're listening to talkSPORT. It is coming up to 3 minutes past 11. Here with the sports headlines, I'm Amelia Beltrao. Some breaking news. Roy Hodgson is returning to Bristol City 44 years later after the club sacked Gerhard Struber. The 78-year-old will be in charge for the final 7 games of the season. He's been out of management since leaving Crystal Palace in February 2024. talkSPORT's chief football correspondent Alex Crook has given his reaction to the news.
They are languishing in mid-table. Bristol City obviously started the season really well and were in and amongst the playoff picture even coming into the turn of the year, so they have fallen away. But it's a strange appointment, isn't it? Obviously he's got that historical tie to the football club. Let's see what he can do in the final 7 or 8 games.
Elsewhere, Gabby Bonhor doesn't think Wales were ready for the World Cup, adding it's probably a good thing Bosnia beat them in the playoffs last night. But former Wales striker Sam Vokes disagrees.
Pre-2016, I think it was 54 years before we went to a tournament. So that expectation is on our shoulders now, and rightly so, because we do have the squad ready for it.
Meanwhile, Michael O'Neill's committed to seeing out his contract with Northern Ireland despite losing to Italy in last night's playoffs. He's been juggling final preparations for this week with his role as Blackburn manager. The Republic of Ireland also failed to get through after losing to Czechia. Now, can Ben White avoid boos later when England play Uruguay in their friendly? Live on talkSPORT. Thomas Tuchel's urging fans not to do that and to give him a second chance. Well, Sam Allardyce has no problem with the Arsenal defender being selected, but he does wish Trent was called up.
If we're going to win the World Cup, we're going to have the best defence. He defends less than most right backs because he causes so many problems going forward. And the quality of his passes and the quality of his delivery is something you just can't ignore. I think that, a very important player.
There's more at talksport.com.
talkSPORT News.
A 16-year-old boy has pleaded not guilty to the murder of a 9-year-old girl in Somerset last December, and the government says it's just trying to help parents after releasing their new guidance on screen time for kids. More with Emma at past.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. Spring forwards with Bridgestone Turanza all-season 6 tyres with a 25,000 mileage guarantee. Book today at quickfit.com. Conditions apply.
Damp and cloudy in the south, but some sunshine later on. Windy and showers further north.
Are you enjoying the fact that I'm getting a little bit of abuse from the jacket, by the way? Why is that your favourite thing that's happened all day?
Listen, I don't mind the jacket, which is probably a negative as far as you're concerned. But the referee, our esteemed producer, did say, I think the jacket's okay, but he should have taken the hanger out first.
Hey, that's my broad shoulders.
That's a double whammy, by the way. You're getting loads of stick for it, and Crookie likes it.
Yeah, that's the worst. It's definitely going back.
You wore it for our Cheltenham Day,
I did wear it for our Cheltenham Day. I wore it today because we've got a big event this weekend, haven't we, as well? We've got a big party tomorrow night.
Oh, yes, we have. I forgot about that.
you better not have done.
Get the old tux out.
He can't do any more partying, sure.
We've got a big do tomorrow night. It's one of our friends' big birthday. We won't go into it in too much detail, but it's a big event. You've got to wear a tux. You have got a tux ready, haven't you?
I have got a tux. Mark Darcy sent me a tux. So,
of course they did.
Other suit providers are available, but they're the best.
He's not getting in that, though.
Sacking Struber, replacing him with Hodgson doesn't cover the cracks. Club needs a real football man at the top of the organisation, says JP. First team needs real investment. Not signing under 18s from Ireland. It's Lansdowne that needs to go, not the manager. Mark, the Cider Red in Belfast, says if Gerhard Struber has really been sacked, then it's merely being made a scapegoat for the inadequacies and poor decisions of the board over the last 12 months. At least under Roy, we can hope for some more attractive football, despite no chance of promotion. He has been sacked, hasn't he?
Yeah, the statement says as much. Yeah, the wording is that he's been relieved of his duties because performances have not been deemed good enough. You made quite a cynical point, but you might be right. Part of the reason that they've got Roy Hodgson in there is to get bums on seats for the rest of the season, because now there might be more of a reason for Bristol City fans to turn up, even if just out of intrigue.
Morning, gents. I was recently discussing the current England squad, and we all agreed it's probably the worst squad any of us can remember. Please discuss. Mike from Barrow. Well, it's intriguing because tonight, 7:45, England take on Uruguay in one of two friendlies in the last international break before Thomas Tuchel names his 26-man squad that goes to the World Cup. It's a little bit of an X-Factor boot camp reality week, with 11 established players being given the week off to come back next week and try and be involved for the Japan game, with 24 players being involved this week, fighting it out for the right to be included, essentially, in the World Cup squad in May. What do you make of it, Scott Minto? Because the split squad has split opinion. A lot of managers are pretty happy about it because some of the star players have been given a little bit of extra rest, and Thomas Tuchel has been praised for that. But also, the pressure is now on those that have been left behind to make a real impact.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. One, he realises that actually the March international dates are probably the worst timing for it because of what's going on at club level, both in terms of relegation and winning the title and getting into Europe and Champions League places. So I think he's kept managers happy that way. And actually, I don't like it. Well, I spoke with Hugh. I don't mind it at all. I spoke with Hugh on Tuesday about this, and he was saying, it puts so much pressure on them, and it's almost like an audition. I said, yeah, that's exactly what it is. And when you're playing in the World Cup, the pressure's going to get even more. So if you can't
top level sport,
if you can't handle this, then you're not quite right for the England squad. This is as elite as it gets. We want to go there and try and win the World Cup. I'm not saying we definitely will, but that's the aim. And I disagree with that previous texter. I think this is a squad that is very, very strong. Yes, there's certain positions where perhaps you'd like a little bit of strength in depth, or maybe at centre half, I think is a slight issue. But I think almost everywhere else, we're more than decent. And if we can just get a good momentum going, then there's every chance we can get right to the latter stages, and who knows what can happen. But I think it's really good, and the players need to be able to hand out. One thing I would say is what I don't want to see is almost players playing on their own, because they want to try and make that impression. I'm sure Thomas Tuchel will be saying, I don't want that. But if you get the ball, then surely you want to try and show that you can do something special.
Yeah. And you've also got to bear in mind that there's actual game to play as well, although it is a friendly. And be interested to see how many substitutes are allowed tonight. I know they were still sort of arguing about that yesterday, about how many they were going to be allowed to have. Adam Wharton, speaking to Faker Others this week, said that it feels a little bit more competitive in training. But also the other thing that he does really well, Thomas Tuchel, is he tells you who you're up against. So he says to you, Adam, you're up against Henderson and Anderson for a place as a number 6 in this squad. He identifies the position he wants you to play and tells you who you're up against to get into the team over the top of. Players, I think, thrive in that environment because they're given clear communication and parameters.
Yeah, but it just does add to the X Factor line that you've sort of coined over the last week or so, because it does feel like everybody effectively is on trial, barring those 11 who we know will definitely be going to the World Cup, 12 if you include Jude Bellingham, because I think Tuchel has said he won't play any part tonight. So it's going to be fascinating. It adds that extra competitive edge amongst the players. It adds a little bit more intrigue to two friendlies we could probably all do without, to be honest. It breaks up the domestic season just when it's coming to the
How could you possibly do without two friendlies when you're picking a World Cup squad?
I think most football fans hate this March international break because it comes just when the domestic season is reaching the boil. I understand from England's perspective why Tuchel wants to look at the players and get some minutes in their legs.
Tell you what, if you're a Tottenham Hotspur fan, I think you're delighted that there's an international break.
I'll give you that one. But as I say, it adds a little bit.
Perhaps the
of
break
intrigue.
is not a bad thing either. So actually, if you're not in a good place, then mentally just doing something different, even if you're not resting, can be a really good thing. I understand where Cookie's coming from. It isn't the ideal time.
When he sent me a picture of himself in a swimming pool yesterday saying, I love international breaks, I think it was the ideal time for him.
Yeah. He's gutted he had to come back for this show.
I'm looking forward to the 3-week break in September. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see who gets the nod tonight. Who starts, by the way? And does that give us any inclination? If it is Dominic Solanke ahead of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, does that mean he's further up in Thomas Tuchel's thoughts?
Well, what if they have the opportunity to change the entire team?
They might play a half each, the two number
nines.
nines.
They might end up playing two different teams in each half, which will be quite fascinating. Also, the one big talking point this week is whether or not Ben White gets onto the pitch and what sort of reception he gets. Well, Thomas Tuchel has been speaking about the inclusion of the man who hasn't been called up to an England squad since 2022.
First of all, I think everyone deserves a second chance. Second, I don't know exactly what happened. I was also not 100% interested in that because I wanted to open a new page and a new book and a new opportunity. Once I asked Ben if he would be ready to play for me and for England, he straight away, without hesitation, said he would love that and he would love to come back. When the chance opened up for him with the injury of Jarell Quansah very late, the reaction came within seconds and was very euphoric and very, very positive, very emotional about it. That showed me that he really means it. The way he behaves and the way he trained here in camp is exceptional, very, very good. Shows his quality. I think it is necessary that he clears the air with his teammates. And I think he does, and I think he will once players come back who were in the World Cup together with him, and then we go from there. Let's see how it goes, and let's see how.
It was fascinating, wasn't it? Ben White called up Tom Tuchel, sort of saying that he wouldn't probe too deeply there as to why he left the World Cup in 2022. He did ask. Ben White said he didn't want to talk about it. Tuchel said he doesn't know the reason, but he deserves a second chance. Does the lack of clarity encourage speculation, and would it be better for Ben White to clarify to England fans why he left the squad?
Yes. I think the FA, having taken the decision to recall him, should have made him speak to the media this week and answer those questions. I don't believe that Thomas Tuchel doesn't know the reasons. Ben White may have wanted to shut down the conversation, but this is a manager who leaves no stone unturned when it comes to preparations. Are we seriously expected to believe that he's not had a conversation with Gareth Southgate, with Steve Holland, with the FA, with various players to find out what went on? I can't see that being the case.
Well, if that was the case, maybe it's of such a personal nature that he doesn't want to discuss it.
Potentially.
And he should be afforded that privacy, which is what Arsenal and England both asked for when he left the camp in 2022.
I'm a crookie on this. Look, first of all, I don't actually have a problem with him in theory being called back. I think everybody should be given a second chance, and the incident was a long time ago, although he refused to play in the last major tournament under Gareth Southgate and
refused to call up under Lee Carsley, as we understand it.
Yeah. And I hear people sort of saying we don't know, and so we can't blame. Well, we should know. It's been long enough now, and actually, if he's in the right, we definitely should know.
Would you be satisfied if he just turned around and said, "And listen, I'm of the opinion that if you don't explain, you create a vacuum where speculation breeds, right? And you cause more problems, I think, by closing ranks and saying there's nothing to see here, rather than if you just come out and say, actually, do you know what? Seriously, it was a personal issue. I needed to deal with it. I'll ask for the England the permission to go away and deal with that. I've done that now, and now I'm ready to come back. Or explain, actually, do you know what? I did fall out with Steve Holland. That did happen. And do you know what? No, he's not here anymore, so I'm ready to come back. Would it be better if he just come out and said that?
Scott will answer that in a minute, but if it was a personal issue, why has it dragged on 3.5 years?
Well, it hasn't, because he was willing to come into the squad the minute Thomas Tuchel took over.
Right, so it's not a personal issue, other than...
Well, it might have
been,
but it hasn't been going on for 3.5 years, because in January 2022, 2025, when he spoke to...
So that's 2.5 years. 2 years.
Because the World Cup was at the end.
Yeah, 2 years.
So he spoke to him and said to him, would you come back? He said, absolutely, I'd be delighted to come back.
Right, so actually... The most important thing for me is, professionally, does he justify being called into the England squad? And I don't think he does.
How many minutes has he played for Arsenal in the Premier League this season?
So that's my point. I don't have a problem with him in principle, because, he may be, very sorry what happened. I personally doubt that, but I don't know. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on that one. But professionally, I don't think he's justified it. I think this says even more about Thomas Tuchel's feelings on Trent Alexander-Arnold than Ben White, actually, because he's almost going out of his way to not pick him. I'm absolutely not having the fact of, well, I know what he can do, because he knows what half the people in the squad he has called up can do. So he definitely doesn't want Trent. Trent's got, in my opinion, no chance of appearing in the World Cup, and I don't think he will, but we'll have to wait and see in a couple of months' time when he calls his squad up. But in terms of Ben White and the incident, listen, you know Gareth better than I do. I remember... playing against Gareth a couple of times, even saw him in the Blue Orchid in Croydon back in the day. That was about
what a club that was.
That was about 30 years ago, and we had a few beers. But I haven't really spoken to him. But I think we know enough about Gareth and Steve as well, even if we don't know them personally, to know that actually the biggest attribute they have was to get that team spirit back. So it's not as if they're difficult people to work with. And when I hear people say, oh, well, they walked out on, not on England, but on those two, I'm sorry, they are the England manager and the assistant manager or coach. When you walk out on them, you walk out on your country. And that's what he's done. And I just don't think that his football has justified him getting called back. That's my personal opinion. But I don't have a problem with him being called back because of what happened 4 years ago.
5 Premier League starts this season for Ben White. Over 20 appearances for Arsenal, but most of those in the Champions League and in cup competitions. Has had injuries, which is one of the reasons actually why Thomas Tuchel didn't call him up beforehand. He actually said that he's a shy and sensitive character and needs a lot of confidence from those around him. And hopefully he would get that tonight and the crowd would respond to him. This texter, Sid the Villa fan, said, first misstep by Tuchel, turned his back on England after being called out for being unprofessional. Hope he gets booed to the point his international career ends tonight. Is that going to help anyone?
I think there's a lot of England fans who will feel resentment at this call-up. And we did the All Access podcast in midweek. I called it a disgrace, which Dean Ashton pushed back on and felt that was too strong. But listen, I'll take my lead from Stuart Pearce, who I remember at the time when we were debating the squad for the last European Championships, he was saying that once you turn your back on England, that should be that. And I think there's a lot of England fans who would feel that Ben White doesn't, despite what Thomas Tuchel says, deserve a second chance.
As I say, I'm a great believer in redemption. We can all make mistakes, but I don't. I think if Gareth was still in charge, he still would be turning his back on England. It's that Thomas Tuchel has come in and decided to change things around. So for me, that's a personal thing with the England manager. And I listen, all professional footballers have times at some point in their career where they don't particularly get on with the manager. It doesn't matter. You know, in a club football, you're playing for the shirt. But actually, when you're playing for your country, even more so if you don't like that person, you put that to one side because you are playing for your country. So I don't like the fact that he is going to get booed, but he has to accept his actions. There's going to be reactions.
Do you think he'll go to the World Cup itself? Do you think he'll make the cut?
No.
So therefore, what's the point? Of Thomas Tuchel just creating a sideshow?
No, I don't think he's creating a sideshow. I think what he's doing is he's trying to check out whether or not he's got the right options and whether or not the combinations work better. The right-back area is a bit of an issue for England because although I think he wants Reece James to be his number one and he loves Tino Livramento, both those two players are very injury-prone, so you've got to have a backup plan just in case. And by selecting someone who works very well with Noni Madueke and Bukayo Saka on a week-to-week basis, I think that's got to be... That's just prudent and sensible thinking.
But again, I go back to Trent. why is he not picking someone who's playing now for the biggest club in the world?
He says it because he doesn't. The system doesn't suit him.
Right. So therefore, he's. And do you know what? Actually, I've watched a fair bit of Real Madrid this season. I was in the Bernabeu for talkSPORT, where the first 20 minutes, Jeremy Doku had him, and Valverde came out and helped him out from a defensive point of view. I've spoken to people whose job it is to work on Real Madrid every single game. Defensively, he's still struggling.
03717 2233 44. That game tonight, 7:45, is live on talkSPORT.
Mo Salah will leave Liverpool on a free this summer. Here's a crazy stat for you. Mo Salah either scored or assisted 37% of the goals Liverpool scored in the last 9 seasons.
Yeah, he's, and I think it was Hugh Wisencroft that said there that the awakening of Liverpool was down to Klopp and Salah. Those two worked in such sync. Klopp made Salah the player that he is, or allowed him to be the player that he is.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at someone in North London who, I'm not comparing Saka to Salah, but if you put that Saka into a Klopp's team, you would see. So Salah's got more goals and assists than Saka.
What you're saying is Arteta's holding back Saka?
Oh, 100%. Liverpool fans, Arsenal fans know that. 100%. That's not up for debate, is it? I'm not opening up a debate here. I'm just stating the fact that Mo Salah's got more goals and assists this season in all comps than Saka. Now, if Klopp had Saka at the time that he was going through that brilliant time at Liverpool, you'd see a totally different Saka. Arteta's getting a different role out of him. There's no way Mohamed Salah would not be the player he is if he played under Arteta. Don't even go there with me.
Okay.
Don't have that argument because I'll fall out with you.
Okay, but I don't think Saka can do what Salah's done.
Well, no, but what I'm trying to get at is that Saka is being...
Inside Series on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Watch the latest Inside Series episode live on talkSPORT's YouTube channel now. 18+, gambleaware.org.
Well, this week, talkSPORT's Rory Jennings discussed his disappointment in Ben White's inclusion in the England squad on the latest edition of Inside England after the Arsenal defender left the Qatar World Cup back in 2022 and hasn't played for England since.
It's absolutely ridiculous. It's ridiculous that Ben White is anywhere near this squad. Not only because of his lack of game time for Arsenal, but if you turn your back on your country, you don't get the opportunities to play for your country again. Like, he decided that England wasn't for him. And now I'm not saying that you have to be patriotic. I am, he's not. That's absolutely fine. But once you've turned your back on your country, you don't get the opportunity
But he
to
turned
come
his back on Southgate.
He turned his back on his country.
That was Ollie Klink and Rory Jennings. Don't forget that you can watch the latest Inside Series episodes on talkSPORT's YouTube channel now, thanks to BetMGM. 18+, begambleaware.org.
Inside Series on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Watch the latest Inside Series episode live on talkSPORT's YouTube channel now. 18+, gambleaware.org.
Yeah, it's fascinating actually to watch a lot of the text messages come in here, and I think there's a lot of strong opinions both ways actually. Leo from Milton Keynes says, I feel very strongly about this. Yes, White hasn't handled this in the best way, and the lack of an explanation has compounded it. But in our society, even criminals who have committed the most heinous of crimes get a chance at redemption. Are we really saying that what White has done eclipses this? It's a fair point.
Yeah, I've said about redemption.
Yeah.
I actually think from a professional point of view, it hasn't quite justified the inclusion, but I agree with you. Redemption, but you certainly should have dealt with it in a different way.
Genuinely, who cares about Ben White playing or not? If it helps us win the World Cup, then great. Far too long England have needed everything to be perfect, probably why we never win anything, says one texter. The disrespect on Ben White is shocking. talkSPORT as a whole spell about mental health, awareness, and a player who clearly has had a personal issue. We don't know what that was. It's none of our business. You don't know what happened, and now you're piling in on him. I don't think we're piling in on him. We're asking the question, why they haven't explained it, what the best thing to do is. There is a part of that. It's none of your business. It's not up to you to pry. The problem is that the vacuum creates speculation, especially on social media. And as a result of that, I think the pressure intensifies.
Sam, if it's a personal issue, then 100%.
Come out and say it.
No. If it's
come out and say it's a personal issue.
Yeah, come out and say that. But if it's a personal issue with Gareth Southgate or Steve Holland, then that's a professional issue, and then we should know about that. So why at least don't we know whether it was completely personal and something that no one needs to invade his private life, or he's just fought with one of the coaches?
Is there a bit of realism that needs to be applied to the situation, as Stephen suggests here? He says, I'm an Arsenal fan. I just want to say, on the Ben White situation, I think he's been picked because he works well with Saka, as I mentioned to you a little bit earlier on. We all know that as well as us Arsenal fans, and in the end, if you don't want to play, you don't have to play. He's not a football-minded boy. It's a job to him. Walk out on his country. It's not like he's going to war, is it? Come on.
But this World Cup lasts longer than ever because obviously they've got the two games in the States to warm up. It could be away for, 8 weeks?
Yeah, but no one's saying you don't take that into consideration.
I just think, as we said, if he's not going to call him up for the squad, which you believe he won't if other players are fit, then do we need all this conjecture? It could be a power play from Thomas Tuchel to say, look, do you know what? This is my squad. I do what I want. I don't care what's going on.
And this is how good I am at building a relationship with players. And by the way, other players, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Ollie Watkins, there's always a route back. Maybe he's saying that.
Except there isn't for Trent.
I don't think there is for Trent. I absolutely don't think there is for Trent at all. And if it was all about that relationship with Saka, wouldn't he have been picked in the first place ahead of Konsa?
No, but my point to you is that because he's worried about the right back options, that they might not make it, that you then say, well, why would you call him up? And I said, because actually he is a good option because of his relationship with Saka and Madueke. I'm not saying that was the reason why he called him up, but if you're going to call up another right back, he is the next cab off the rank, or he is someone that you would think about because of his relationship with those two players.
Listen,
makes sense.
I'm not as strong as Crookie when it comes to this, and he's turned his back on his country. Again, I'll repeat, I'm up for having the option of redemption, but I just believe for every action there's a reaction, and what he did, he has to understand that it's just been delayed, and the moment he gets called back, he's going to get what he's going to get. I do think he will be booed. I hope he's not. And I hope that after that the England fans will leave him alone. But we'll have to wait and see whether that happens. Everyone's entitled to do what they want, Sam, within legal reason, of course.
03717 23344 is the number to call. You can text us 81089. This is talkSPORT with Sam Matterface, the former Benfica defender Scott Minto, and SJA nominee Alex Crook, who promises us that he's going to stay for the whole ceremony this time, even if he doesn't win.
I don't believe that.
We're with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's real deals at selcobw.com.
Think about it. The only person that's not going to lose anything out of this deal is Mo Salah. And when he signed a 2-year contract and got himself a new contract and got himself the highest paid and one of the highest paid players in the Premier League, it was because Liverpool managed to achieve, or probably on his behalf, a 2-year deal that they didn't particularly want. I think they wanted a 1-year deal. And when we heard Virgil van Dijk, the caller was talking about the commentary of Virgil van Dijk and Mo Salah, what we heard was a load of old rubbish from Virgil van Dijk and Mo Salah about how they'd heard nothing from the club, no one had spoken to them, no one had given them any indications, all that nonsense, because clearly agents would have been speaking to the club. What they hadn't heard at that time is, yes, you can have precisely what you want. That's what they hadn't heard at that particular time. So when we use that as part of the architecture of a conversation to justify people's behaviour...
No, I think you're right there. I don't think they did come out and say, I'm staying. They didn't. He's got it wrong. They actually did play the game.
Of course they did. So in this instance, when you look at Mo Salah has orchestrated a circumstance where he engineered a contract as a result of his previous worth that Liverpool gave him enormous amounts of money. He hasn't turned up until his outburst. He then had an outburst that's orchestrated this outcome. And as a result of that outburst, if you follow the line dots and probably join them up, Liverpool are the ones that are going to lose out on a player that they've paid 400 grand a week for that has barely turned up this season, that has got a longer-term contract that was designed to protect their interests, which has done the polar opposite, and has got them out of a transfer fee. And the only person that will not be 1 single cent out of pocket in any shape or form, performance-wise or value-wise, is Mohamed Salah.
Craig Bellamy says he's very proud but definitely disappointed after Wales suffered World Cup penalty shootout heartbreak in their playoff at the hands of Bosnia. Gabby Agbonlahor reckons it's actually a good thing they didn't get through.
The last World Cup, I was there and I went to some of the Wales games. They were poor. Do you know what I mean? I just feel like Wales, the squad of players they've got, probably not ready for another World Cup.
Northern Ireland suffered a 2-0 defeat in Italy to also crash out at the playoff stage. Michael O'Neill said his players carried a terrific attitude throughout.
It's a very young team. I think the average age of the team is 22 years of age, which is incredibly positive for us to come here against an experienced team like Italy.
The Republic of Ireland were denied by spot kicks too, going down to the Czech Republic. Now, don't boo Ben is the message Thomas Tuchel is giving to England fans as the England defender returns to the squad tonight in their friendly with Uruguay. Our England correspondent, Faye Carruthers, spoke to Ben White's teammate, Noni Madueke, yesterday.
He said he was really delighted to be called back up for England and proud, and that, you know, he's actually a really good character behind the scenes, and perhaps we haven't seen that from Ben White in an England shirt.
And Luke Littler silenced fans in Berlin with an epic double big fish checkout to beat Michael van Gerwen. That's 2 treble 20s followed by a bullseye. He did that twice. It's back-to-back Premier League wins for the world number 1, who's now 2 points clear of Johnny Clayton at the top of the table. There's more. There's always more at talkSPORT.com.
Okay, it is Friday morning. Thank you very much for joining us on talkSPORT. It's Sam Matterface, Alex Crook, and $1 Million Minto. Aforementioned $1 Million. Should we tell you? Does people know why you're $1 Million Minto?
I don't know
It's
why.
because when we went on holiday to Tenerife, you turned up. We were all down by the pool, and you turned up a couple of hours after us in a pair of gold lame briefs.
So not true.
With his six-pack rippling down.
It was the pit. Do you remember the photo on the balcony of him and his budgie smugglers with an espresso? Looking out and surveying
I'll take the
the
six-pack.
scene.
I won't take the...
Surveying the scene.
Gold lame. I'm sure they were gold lame. Let's catch up with the latest odds, all thanks to BetMGM.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. We're ready for the action. Are you? Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18 plus. Gambleaware.org.
Christ, I didn't want to think about gold lame pants and Dan Taus in the same sentence. But anyway.
Speaking of budgie smugglers.
Dan Taus from BetMGM to discuss today's top sporting events and the latest odds. Hi, Dan.
Morning, Jim. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Do you want to borrow my jacket when we go to the darts next week, by the way?
Very nice.
Yeah.
By the way, didn't I tell you he'd pull out of Brighton?
You did. It was odds on. It was odds on to pull out.
I pulled out of Brighton to go to work on the Crystal Palace.
Whereas I've turned down work because I feel like being out with Dan Taus is more important.
But I'm going out next week with Dan Taus.
Oh.
There's a problem there. I'm not in Manchester next week.
So you're pulling out, right? Basically, this is because BetMGM obviously sponsor the darts, and we have tried to accost Dan to get us in. And next week he's taking me to Manchester, although now he's telling me he's not coming. And the week after that he's taking Crookie to
I don't know about
Brighton.
accosting. He practically begged me to come to Brighton and said, "Can you fill the table for me as well?"
But the reason we're looking forward to it is because it was sensational last night, wasn't it? The darts action that we saw last night was absolutely superb. Luke Littler has come to the party. Better late than never.
It has indeed. Yeah, 9-8 of the BetMGM Premier League darts was in Berlin last night, and Luke Littler, he was the 5-4 favourite to win last night, but that is now his third win in the last 4 weeks. He saw off Stephen Bunting, Gerwyn Price, and was a very good final against Michael Van Gerwen. He beat him 6-4, and as you said, Sam, if anyone didn't think he was starting to hit top gear, he averaged 106 and hit 2 170s in the final. Has taken him to the top of the table. It was also good to see Josh Rock actually to pick up his first points against Johnny Clayton, because despite his 9 darter, he's been a little bit unlucky in the first 8 weeks. But next week, as you said, Mr. Matterface, the Roadshow heads to Manchester for week 9. I'm hoping Gerwyn Price can do what he's done in the last 2 seasons and hit a 9 darter. We've only had 1 so far this year, so we're slightly behind the 3 at the same point last season. But I'm convinced that we'll see some more before the end of May. And like I said, Manchester next week and Brighton the week after.
Looking forward to it. Can't wait for that. England World Cup squad. Obviously tonight we've got 24 players who are trying desperately to force their way into Thomas Tuchel's plans. What places are up for grabs in the first World Cup game, do you think?
Yeah, loads of debate in the last half hour. I've been listening to you guys, and we're going to, like you said, we're going to come on to the England game shortly. But looking ahead to that first game on June the 17th, I think it is, and barring injuries, I wanted to get your guys' thoughts of where you think the certainties are and where the place is up for grabs. In the office, we had a little bit of a debate this morning that we think centre-back, left-back, number 10 and left midfield, which probably going to be the most debated. If you were Thomas Tuchel and given his squad selection and the approach to these 2 friendlies, it'd be good to get your thoughts on where you think his head is at with these positions. For example, we're just looking at the markets. It suggests that Lewis Hall and Nico O'Reilly are odds on to make the plane, and Luke Shaw's an outsider at 7-4. You just touched on Trent just before the break. He is actually a shorter price to make the plane than Ben White, who's actually in the squad this evening. Trent is 1-2 and Ben White is 6-4. It's still a very maturing market. There's still lots going on, but it'd be good to get your guys' heads at where you think he's going to be come June the 17th in that first game against Croatia.
I don't know about you, but I'm pretty certain that the 11 that will start that game, or certainly the 11 that will start the first big game of the tournament, which is the Croatia game, I think, probably, is pretty settled apart from possibly that number 10 area where there's a bit of competition. Mm-hmm. I even think the left-back situation is sorted.
You think Lewis Hall?
No, I think O'Reilly plays.
Do you? Okay.
I think O'Reilly plays. I think Pickford starts in goal. James Conser, Gay and O'Reilly. I think Anderson plays at the base in the midfield. Saka, Bellingham, Rice and Gordon. And I think Kane plays up front.
Yeah. I wouldn't go too far away from that.
I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure about Jude. I The way Morgan Rogers has played for England, I think Thomas Tuchel really likes him. That for me,
that's the biggest one for me. That's the 50-50 call.
For me, Jude, if we're to win the World Cup, he has to be playing. Quite simple. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure though he will start the World Cup. I'm pretty sure he will end the World Cup, and I don't think left back's guaranteed.
Do you not?
No, Nick O'Reilly probably will because he's had a few more caps than Lewis Hall. Lewis Hall for me is the best left back at the moment, despite what O'Reilly did, and he was superb. Don't get me wrong in that final, but I still think I agree with Dan. And then the centre halves as well, because John Stones is not always 100% fit. Harry Maguire. So I think it's a really good conversation about who will go on the plane.
So you're a little bit more uncertain.
At this moment in time, I think your 11 is probably pretty close. I would argue that I think with Jude being out and Morgan Rogers, I think, he's got currency in the bank. I think he will probably start the World Cup.
Is there an argument, though, because he's had this spell off injured Bellingham, that he might actually go into the tournament fresher? Because I think if you speak to Aston Villa fans, Gabby amongst them, Morgan Rogers has looked a bit jaded of late.
Yeah, but we'll see how well he does for England, because for England, he's been absolutely superb. And Morgan Rogers at times, I don't want to say he's been carrying Aston Villa, but it's been a sort of an over-reliance on him.
And international football is a little bit more roomy than the Premier League, which is a brutal physical duel, a war every time you go out on the pitch, isn't it? And he probably have more room to manoeuvre. So, Dan, after listening to us, what does that reflect in terms of the odds? Is there anything else that's standing out before we get into the Uruguay game?
The Trent price still amazes me. 1-2 and 6-4 for Ben White to go. There's a chance that neither of them can go. If I had one random outside selection, is there any chance that Harvey Barnes can make the plane?
No.
8-1.
No.
You think there's no chance whatsoever? All right, there might be injuries, etc. that might open a door for him, but you just don't.
Rashford, Gordon, Eze, all ahead of him, aren't they?
You would think so at this moment in time, yeah.
Owen.
But look, it wasn't the first time we've been through England squads where there's a surprise call up. Remember the days of Walcott getting called up and Owen going to his first tournament, etc.
What's your price on Max Dowman?
Max Dowman, he's not going to make it, is he?
I think Thomas Tuchel's pretty much ruled it out, hasn't he?
Said last week. But it'd be interesting. That's the equivalent, isn't it, for the Walcott thing? And not that we're advocating him to go. I think we said last week it wouldn't be a great idea.
It'd be around the 10-1 mark.
Okay, let's talk about no official golden goals, but we're going to do a little bit on England Uruguay, are we?
Stupid.
We
game,
are,
anyway.
yeah. So look, England are odds on to beat Uruguay.
I'd love it if you got this one right.
England have just won 2 of their last 11 matches against South American sides. So, look, it is a friendly. We're going to find out a lot more about going into that squad into the World Cup in June. But as you said, owing to the international break, there's no formal golden goals on the website this week, but we still want to give you guys a chance to win some money to put towards prostate cancer. $3,500 we've got in the pot so far. Without sounding like a broken record, the nominated journalist of the year, Alex Crook, now has 0 out of 33. So this week we're going to do a bit of a team effort. We're going to let you guys all pick a scoreline prediction for the England game tonight, and with a bit of hope that we're having 3 hits at it, we will get one and put another £500 in the pot. So, Mr. Matterface, we're going to you first.
Well, bearing in mind that both teams have now confirmed that they're going to make up to 8 substitutions, I think it's going to be quite a bitty game. I think that England are basically going to change a lot of the players in the second half. So I'm going to go 2-2.
Okay, 2-2.
I think Bielsa's going to keep his team quite settled. I don't think they'll make as many changes as England do.
Okay, so 2-2. We haven't drawn a match since Euro 2024 in the quarters versus Switzerland, but that is an 11.5 to 1 chance. Scott, $1 Million Minto, come to you. Your prediction for the game tonight?
Well, I was actually asked last here, Dan. So Sam and Crookie had already been given had given the predictions. I mean, look, there's no Suarez, there's no Cavani. Darwin Nunez isn't.
They're older than Crook.
They've got someone older than me in goal, I think, tonight.
Well, Edin Dzeko scored, didn't he? Yeah. So I don't think this is as strong. I think it's an exciting Uruguay side. Any Bielsa side is exciting, but I don't think there's a lot of high class quality apart from Valverde, of course, who can score a goal. Just ask Manchester City fans. But I'm going to go for an England 2-0 win. Okay,
England won their last 2 games by this scoreline, so not the worst shot in the world. That's just shy of 5 to 1. And then Mr. Crook, back from his holidays. Come on, 0 out of 33. Let's get one.
I have gone for England to win 2-1, just because I don't think Uruguay are in brilliant shape. They got hammered by the USA in a friendly recently. Bielsa actually is under a bit of pressure coming into this game. So, yeah, England will win 2-1. But now that he said that both teams can make 8 substitutions, 1 to 5, I watch the first half and then go to the pub.
I think that would have happened anyway. England last one 2-1 against Netherlands in the semis. That is a 6-1 shout. So Sam, you've gone for 2-2. Crookie, you've gone for 2-1. Scott, you've gone for 2-0. But like we always say, let's try and put some money in the pot for prostate cancer.
Let's hope so. Interesting that Luca Torreira not in the Uruguay squad. A big player for Galatasaray. Played a lot of games for them, but not included by Marcelo Bielsa, which I think is a little bit of a surprise. I think he hasn't played since June because of maybe a
Sam,
bit
they're massively unsettled though, Uruguay, because Suarez retired and come out and do a bit of a big press conference. Then Bielsa come out after they lost against the USA and slated himself. So
105-minute press conference that was.
Oh, I'll tell you what, that's...
Can you imagine sitting through that? Thank you very much, Dan. Appreciate that. That was a look at the latest odds, all thanks to BetMGM. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Keep things golden with responsible play at betmgm.co.uk. 18+, gambleaware.org.
Listen, it's hard to put this in order, so don't judge me on the order.
No, I don't want any order off you.
Okay,
I just want your top 10.
Thierry Henry, Alan Shearer, Rooney, Salah, Gerrard, Patrick Vieira, Kevin De Bruyne, Aguero, Lampard, and one player to finish it off. Yes, didn't win anything at this club, but when he was at his best that season for Spurs, Gareth Bale. He was unbelievable.
Yeah. Right, now the
Go
obvious...
on, dig me out then. Go on.
Well, no, the obvious thing to do, 2 names that spring to mind, would hit you with them. But unlike most people, I'm going to commend you and say yes, with the vast majority of them. I mean, it's impossible to put... Do you know something? What I would say to you is this. I don't think anybody would have any arguments probably with 7 of your 10.
Yeah.
You might have 1 or 2 that your own favourites, like you say, you enjoy watching,
Yes.
and they're special to you. Henry, Shearer, absolutely different level.
Yes.
Different level. Absolutely different
Agreed.
level. And you've obviously, after that, you've got Rooney, Salah, Gerrard, for me as well, would come into the equation. Lampard's absolutely in the equation. The two, yes. The 2 that I would maybe look at and say consider themselves slightly unlucky, I don't see Harry Kane, I don't see Ryan Giggs.
Yep.
You've not got Roy Keane in it, have you?
No.
You know, so there's maybe 3 that would that would certainly be in some people's top
100%.
10, Gab.
It is talkSPORT. It's Sam Matterface, Alex Crook, and Scott Minto. We're here through till 1 o'clock this afternoon. You've been busy this week.
I have. Obviously, I was at Wembley with you on Sunday, spoke to Rick Parry, chairman of the EFL, before that Carabao Cup final. And he was particularly interesting on the fact there's soon to be extra playoff places, not just in the Championship, but potentially League 1 and 2 as well, and also on the prospect of 3 teams being promoted from the National League.
I think there were concerns, which, to be honest, I get in terms of, well, how will the 8th team in the Championship survive in the Premier League? But actually, if you look over the last 5 years of the teams that have finished 8th in the Championship, it's all teams with Premier League experience, which rather negates that. And, you know, we all know how incredibly competitive the Championship is, and this one shaping up yet again to be absolutely massive coming to the end of the season. So it's just about giving those clubs who battled all the way through that little bit of an extra chance, and I don't think it's going to make any difference from the Premier League's point of view.
And just the last one on the subject of promotion, obviously there's been a big push from non-league clubs for 3 up, 3 down from the National League. Is that something you can see happening in the near future?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's indefensible that we don't address it, and we've been saying that regularly. We do recognise our responsibilities to look downwards as well as upwards, and I think we've just got to bring that to fruition. And I think as we go forwards, we'll almost certainly be addressing the playoff situation in League 1 and League 2, so that we're consistent, and you know, potentially that's the ideal opportunity then to look at the bottom of the table as well, but it will come.
Interesting from Rick Parry, the chairman of the EFL, talking about not only sorting out the playoffs in the Championship, but League 1, League 2, and up from the conference as well. So maybe increasing the movement between what is classified as non-league into the Football League. And you were interested, actually, that he did raise concerns, or he mentioned the Premier League raised concerns about the possibility of teams coming up into the top divisions that maybe weren't ready.
Yeah, it was a whisper we'd heard when they announced they were going to extend the playoffs, that maybe the Premier League had concerns about the fact a team who finished 8th in the Championship could come up and maybe dilute their product. I hate using that word product, but we have to in this case. But he pointed out, actually, if you look at this season, Sunderland are going to stay up, Leeds probably are going to stay up. So he used that as an argument to say that teams coming up for the Championship have proved they can be competitive. And of course, in Sunderland's case, they did come up via the playoffs, which usually is a disadvantage.
Well, they came up not only via the playoffs, but they came up having not expected to necessarily go up, and came up and ended up winning in the last minute of the game. It was very, very unexpected in that sense. But what they'd done brilliantly is they'd prepared 2 lists for getting into the Premier League and 1 for staying in the Championship, and they executed their plans almost immediately after that, and they did a very, very good job, and that's been proved by their performances this season. Where do you stand on it extending? It extends the season for a lot of clubs.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm all for it.
I mean, if Roy Hodgson was the manager of Bristol City this time next year, they'd still have an amazing chance of getting into the playoffs, wouldn't they, from where they are now?
Well, maybe still, you know, I think they'd be a long way off for them, but they have a better chance. I'm for it for a number of reasons. Look, I think people were, when the playoffs first came in, were against it. How can a side finishing 6th possibly go up into the league when actually a side finished 3rd deserves to be? No, I think everyone's absolutely for it now. The principle is absolutely the same. I think it's really important that the playoffs in terms of the semi-final and the final doesn't change, and it doesn't. It just adds a couple of extra teams on top of that. I think it also, in terms of the normal regulation league season, means that there's not dead rubber games. But even if you're in the bottom half with just 6 games to go, you've still got a chance of getting in there.
Which is great for attendances.
Great for attendances and great for just general excitement and entertainment. And that's obviously ultimately what it's all about. But also, you give me one team, and I include Coventry City in that is ready for the Premier League right now. Look at Sunderland. Absolutely amazing season. The recruitment, the hierarchy, and Reggie Lebris as well, nothing short of sensational. But when they went up in the playoffs, and they were lucky to get past Coventry in the semis, they were lucky to win in the final as well, most people were thinking not only are they down, but actually they could trouble teams.
No, just when I get one prediction right. No, you give me the credit.
And I have given you credit, but that's after a few weeks of recruitment. So you saw what they did, and you looked at what they did. So my point is that even if a team is sort of like bottom half for most of the season, sneaks into the playoffs, goes on and wins it, they still have the opportunity to do what Sunderland did.
He also thought that
Recruit well.
Ruben Amorim was going to be a saviour after what he'd seen in pre-season.
That's true.
Who?
This is talkSPORT. Sam Matterface, Alex Crook and Scott Minto. We're here through till 1 o'clock with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's real deals at selcobw.com.
French club Lens have described PSG's request to postpone their top-of-the-table Ligue 1 clash as troubling because it would mean bowing, quotes, to the demands of the most powerful. The French FA have received another request from PSG to postpone their clash against Lens to help with more preparation for their Champions League quarter-final tie against Liverpool. We know that PSG successfully requested to have their game against Nantes before the Chelsea game postponed. So we know this happens, but Lens are saying not so fast. So the basic question here is, will the French bow to favouritism? Eric Bieldeman is top journalist with L'Equipe. Eric, bon après-midi, my friend. How are you? Where is this going? Are Lens going to get their way, or will PSG get their way?
Hi, good afternoon, my friends. I am afraid that I fear that Paris Saint-Germain will win the contest versus Lens because the French professional league is really very close to Nasser El Khelaifi, the chairman of Paris Saint-Germain, who is the chairman of French football, and also the chairman, I would even say, of European football through the European Club Association. So we have there a very strong power, and the meaning of French football is that European challenge, and to win a European trophy is more important than to respect the home league.
talkSPORT Sports Update, powered by the Nissan Van range, supporting van owners to get the job done. Search Nissan Vans or head to your local Nissan Van centre.
Good afternoon, I'm Max Scott here with your sports headlines. Roy Hodgson's making a managerial return to Bristol City almost half a century after his last spell there. The club sacked Gerhard Struber and his assistant Bernd Eibler after 6 winless games. talkSPORT correspondent and Bristol fan Lawrence Mora says there's pressure to turn things round at the club.
A new CEO has come in, Charlie Boss, so they're looking for a sporting director. They're changing the shape again of the club at the hierarchy going forward. So I possibly see Roy Hodgson as that man just stepping into the breach to see Bristol City through to the end of the season.
Gabi Agbonlahor reckons it's probably for the best that Wales didn't qualify for the World Cup. talkSPORT's chief football correspondent Alex Crook doesn't think they'll even qualify for the home Euros in 2 years' time.
Because only 2 spaces are reserved for the home nations. They're all going to go through qualifying. This is going to sound arrogant, but England will qualify. But if Scotland, the Republic of Ireland and Wales don't qualify, then only 2 of them will obviously be given a space.
And Thomas Tuchel's urging fans not to boo Ben White when he makes his England return tonight in their friendly against Uruguay. 11 players are sitting out to rest, including Harry Kane, before the full 35-man squad compete for their plane ticket against Japan next week. Emil Heskey's told us tonight should give us a good idea who can deliver up front to eventually replace the captain.
It's their chance of solidifying themselves in that talk of being the one to take over, because we really don't know who's going to take over from Harry Kane or what it's going to look like after he leaves.
And John Toshak has hit back at his son's claims that he's been diagnosed with dementia. The 77-year-old's son, Cameron, told the Daily Mail this week he had the disease, but Toshak himself says, "I've forgotten all the goals I missed, but I remember perfectly the ones I scored." There's more at talksport.com.
talkSPORT News.
The Prime Minister says new guidance on screen times for children will be a relief to parents, and a Russian man's been sentenced to 4 years for assaulting a woman during a video call to Donald Trump's son. More from the news team in half an hour.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit, where we've got a wider range of premium tyres than Britain has rainy days. Visit your local centre or book at quickfit.com today.
Damp and cloudy in the south, but some sunshine later on. Windy and showers further north.
It's talkSPORT, Sam Matterface Alex Crook and Scott Minto here till 1 o'clock this afternoon. Remember the live football tonight, 7:45. Both England games, by the way, available for you this week on talkSPORT. It's Uruguay tonight, and then it's Japan on Tuesday night. This weekend, though, the future heavyweight champion of the world, Moses Atoma, takes on Jermaine Franklin. So let's look ahead to the big fight with DAZN.
Big fight build-up on talkSPORT with DAZN. Watch Moses Atoma versus Jermaine Franklin this Saturday, only on DAZN. Sign up now at DAZN.com.
Let's get to Joe Gallagher's gym in Manchester ahead of what is a big weekend of action. And Spencer Oliver is there. Just tell us why you're there.
Yeah, we come down to Joe Gallagher's gym just to see what is going on in here. You know, we've got great fighters like Lawrence Okoli, Fraser Clark, Jack Massey, Zelfa Barrett, just to name a few. And they've all been working out with us here today. We've been Joe's let us into the gym, up close and personal, champs camp. And I've got to tell you, this gym is absolutely thriving, buzzing. Joe, thanks for letting us in firstly, but what a day we've had there. And obviously,
what a day you've had.
What day I've had. I've had a brilliant day, birthday as well. They all sang me happy birthday, by the way, guys. But yeah, looking at Fraser Clark and the improvements for Fraser Clark, and more importantly, Lawrence Okoli, the WBC #1, has got his big fight coming up. Guys are looking fantastic.
Yeah, listen, we're 2 weeks, 4 weeks away from the fight at the moment, and we're just in that area where everything's got to be locked down. The jigsaw pieces, as I say, we're beginning to go into full open sparring, where the jigsaw pieces that we've worked on are going into full flow. You've seen Fraser doing very well today, Lawrence being Lawrence as always, Mikey Talon sparring there, looking very sharp ahead of being on the Tyson Fury undercard. But yeah, the gym's bouncing, everyone's got fights, everyone's got dates, and it's a thriving gym.
Yeah, it really is. And guys, you won't be able to see this, but the sweat is just all over the windows and everything. The atmosphere, the smell in this place is absolutely electric.
Well, happy birthday to you. I'm pleased that we've given you a little present, by the way. Was it 32 this year, isn't it?
I don't know whether to pull his hair or not.
Don't do that. It might come off.
Yeah, say that again. You know all about that, Sam.
We're in the same camp.
Hey, go on, lads.
Just talk to me then, Joe, about Lawrence Okoli and Fraser Clark, because Lawrence Okoli, 25th of April, big fight for him. Fraser Clark on that undercard, taking on Justin Huney. Where do you see them in the conversation going forward? Because the big fight this weekend, obviously, Franklin taking on Itoma. Are you hoping that eventually we see one of those two in the ring with Moses?
The WBC earlier on late last year, made a final eliminator for Moses Atuma versus Lawrence Okolie, and for whatever reason now that hasn't happened. Moses is fighting Franklin, Lawrence is fighting Tony Yoka in Paris. Lawrence, two-weight world champion, WBC #1, shouting Kabiel out, the supposedly bogeyman in the division that no one wants to fight. Lawrence went to Germany, watched him, he wants that fight. Yeah, definitely Lawrence Okolie is in the mix. I've just clarified with Spencer Oliver that he can pronounce his name and not to miss him when we're talking about the current heavyweights. As far as Fraser Clark, listen, Fraser Clark's coming off a loss, he's changed trainers, and he's in a different environment, different setup, and we've rolled the dice with the Justice Hooney fight. Obviously Justice Hooney, he was well on the way for having a points win over Fabio Wardley, got caught late on, and it's a dangerous fight. He's ranked double 15 in the WBC, Justice Hooney, so it's a big gamble for Fraser Clark, but he's applied himself, he's worked, he's lost weight, he's in great shape, and all you can do is go in there and do your best. But I do feel that as far as Lawrence Okolie is concerned, he will be world heavyweight champion by the end of the year.
Yeah, Spencer, how do you...
And you can tell Simon Jordan that as well.
Spencer, obviously, Joe has picked you up there because he was suggesting that sometimes you don't give him the credit that he deserves, Lawrence Okolie. What do you think the future holds for him?
Yeah, I think that's fair from Joe Gallagher saying that, because Lawrence Okolie's name doesn't get mentioned enough. He is WBC #1. He is right up there, a two-weight world champion already, you know, looking to become a three-weight world champion. And he deserves those accolades. Since he's been working with Joe Gallagher, this is the first time I've seen him in the gym working with Joe, and Joe's been working on certain things where Lawrence was lacking in the past, and you see the massive improvements, and he's made a huge improvement in there. So, yeah, the gym's been really buzzing today. Lawrence Okolie has made massive improvements as well, and he deserves his name mentioned, you know, in those big fights, because he wants the big fights. Ajit Kabiel, we don't know what's going on with Alexander Usyk. We know that he's fighting on May the 23rd against Van Hooven, the kickboxer. We don't know what's going to happen with the WBC belt if that becomes vacant. Lawrence wins out in France against Tony Yoka. All of a sudden he can find himself in a WBC world title shot. So that's how close he is. But yeah, like I say, the atmosphere, the work ethic that goes on here is right old school. And Joe, I've got to hand it to you, mate. Like, things haven't changed here. You're a no-nonsense type of guy.
Oh, cheers, thanks, Spence. How much do I owe you for that?
Well, not a lot, mate. Just, you give me a little telling off over there. I thought, I know my place here. I know my place here.
No, listen, you can't reinvent the wheel, and we're always in here. If you turn up, show up, listen, work hard, be dedicated, disciplined, you might be able to do something in this sport.
Joe, can I ask you what you think of the current state of the heavyweight division in this country?
I think it's at the best it's ever been. Obviously, we came through an era growing up of your Frank Brunos, your Lennox Lewises, your Danny Williams and Joe Bugners, all that era, Gary Mason. But to have so many good heavyweights all at once, and I think we occupy 6 or 7 in the top 10 governing bodies. Like you say, you can go from Fabio Wardley, you go to Daniel Dubois, you go to Moses Atuma, you go to Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, Lawrence Okolie, Fraser Clark, JKV. There's so many good heavyweights, and we could have our own World Boxing Super Series or some type of tournament with them. But I do feel the heavyweight division, usually boxing is defined as in how healthy the heavyweight division is. And when you look out the heavyweight division, how healthy it is in UK, then boxing's in a good place at the moment, a very good place.
Moses and Jermaine then tomorrow. Talk to me, Joe. Is this really the foregone conclusion that everyone seems to be predicting?
I don't think you can say that. It's usually disrespectful to say that to Jermaine Franklin. He's obviously a seasoned fighter, been with some top quality operators. Most sees this as an opportunity for himself. I don't know whether he feels saying that his brother's been in the gym this morning, sparring with our lads here this morning. But he is someone that's come over here motivated. Here's the talk, here's the social media talk, and mostly got his head down and wants to prove a point. If that type of Franklin turns up, then we will have a contest for however long it lasts. We're all blown away by Moses last time out with Dylan White, but Dylan's on the tail end of his career. His career's near enough all done now, so we couldn't really learn from that. We're hoping with Jermaine tomorrow night, he will bring them rounds what Moses is so desperately looking to get and bank, and it'll be a good fight. But I feel Moses Atuma, the speed of him, his amateur pedigree, his shot selection, could startle Jermaine Franklin, and it'd be a rabbit in the headlights and over on 1-2. What I'd really like to see it go around 7, 8, 9 rounds, and that'd be the best type of scenario for me for Moses Atuma as a coach.
Yeah, great opportunity for both of these guys. It's a launch pad really for Moses Atuma. Can he do what Anthony Joshua couldn't, what Dillian White couldn't, and get rid of Jermaine Franklin inside the distance? And for Jermaine Franklin, speaking to him yesterday at that press conference, he says, listen, I like my back against the wall. I love to prove the world, shock the world, you know, in winning this fight against Moses Atuma, who many are talking about as being the next heavyweight champion of the world. So Frank Warren, by the way, guys, told us that if he comes through this fight and comes through it good, Moses Atuma against Jermaine Franklin, he gets a world title shot this year.
Who against?
Whoever the title's
Frank
fragmented come against. Yeah, no, he didn't say that, but okay. Listen, it could be against your guy, couldn't it? What I'm saying is, the heavyweight division right now, the undisputed title, them titles are going to fragment. Alexander Usyk is going to have to vacate some of those belts because the mandatories are up. It's either box the mandatory or get stripped. So where we're at right now is expect some of them titles to come apart, and we see the likes of Lawrence Okoli, Moses Atuma, and other British heavyweights.
Richard
Riakporhe could be in the mix for this heavyweight title. So, you know, a lot happening. The heavyweight landscape changing massively, and we could see a new British heavyweight champion this year.
That sort of brings me on to my next question, Joe. What sets Moses apart? Because there's been a few false dawns when it comes to British heavyweights in recent years. What convinces you that this guy is absolutely the real deal?
I think, like everyone, I think everyone's excited. I don't think a lot of people are convinced. I think everyone's excited about his potential, and like every young kid that's coming through that's usually talented like Moses, we all get excited, and sometimes we can build them up a bit too much before the time is ready for them to step through the doors. This type of fight is ideal for Moses. What he brings across from his amateur style, his speed, his power, his shot selection is very good. Is he ready to become this undisputed? There was talk about that, but that's huge pressure to put on a young kid so young. Am I convinced yet? No, I'm not convinced that he can be what everyone's saying, but that'll only change, and it'd be foolish of me to put that pressure on him saying, yeah, he is the best thing. We don't know he's the best thing. He's still starting off his journey. I think he's only had 13, 14 fights, so he's learning on the job. He's got to fight more experienced people, more people like Jermaine at the weekend that'll give him rounds, and then there's bigger names there that are on the periphery, like your Derek Chisoris, Deontay Wilders, them type of opponents before there's an elite level weight in the heavyweights, and that's your Tyson Fury and your Usyk. They're the elite two, and below it everyone's fighting for there. Is he on that level? He's about to get on that level with a good performance this weekend, but am I convinced he can do something? Not convinced yet. Has he got the potential to do that? Yes, he has.
Mikey Talon is on the Fury undercard when Fury fights again in the next couple of weeks. I know Mikey, only 21 years of age. He's part of your gym, and I know that he's taken on an interesting nickname. He's known as the Omen. And I know somebody else who was called that back in the day, and I heard that actually Mikey Talon phoned Spencer to ask if he could use the nickname The Omen. So you've got an old and new omen in your gym today, Joe. Can I ask you which one is a bad omen, which one's a good omen?
Just good job it wasn't Friday the 13th last week, wasn't it? We'll all be in trouble. But no, listen, it was great. Yeah, obviously, when Mikey first came in the gym, he had the childish look of The Omen, the film, The Child. But once he got in the ring, he had spite, he had demon, and he was a horrible little man. And he had that grit that you need, and we approached Spencer. I was a huge fan of Spencer. I still feel one of his fights with Patrick Mullins is one of the British fights of all time, and it was great for Spencer to be able to pass on that name of The Omen, and hopefully Mikey can continue that and get that Omen and get that world title that The Omen never got, but it most probably be in respect and sort of like a thing of we did it for you type of thing with that name of The Omen, Spencer. So, so that's the goal and that's the incentive. But Mikey, like you say, an exciting prospect. He's 21, I keep thinking he's 20. He's on the Tyson Fury undercard. Good win there, and I think he moves to 13-0, and then we'll start after most probably looking at titles.
Yeah, guys, when you want to pass over that baton as The Omen, and that's not an easy thing to do unless the kid can fight. So when Joe Gallagher told me about Mikey Talon, I thought, yeah, let's take a little look at him, and straight away there was no thoughts about it. The kid's really, I think he's going to go all the way. We've got a future world champion there in Mikey Talon for sure, and he's been working here today, putting in the graft with the rest of the guys as well. Brilliant young talent. Look out for him on April the 4th.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. great to it's great to speak to you. I'm pleased that he's corrected you again there, Spencer. And let's hope that's a good omen for the weekend. Thank you very much, Spencer. Always brilliant. He's a good omen for us. We love him. Spencer Oliver, part of our Fight Night coverage this weekend, obviously on Talk Sport. That was a look ahead to Atoma versus Franklin with DAZN. Don't forget that you can watch the fight live this Saturday only on DAZN. Sign up now at dazn.com.
Big fight build-up on talkSPORT with DAZN. Watch Moses Atoma versus Jermaine Franklin this Saturday only on DAZN. Sign up now at dazn.com.
Liverpool put their season ticket prices up. We'll do that next on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go.
Will that result have put a little bit of a seed of doubt in the Arsenal players in terms of the Championship run-in?
You said will it give a bit of doubt for Arsenal now going into the league?
I don't think so. I actually think it could work in our favour because you're seeing the amount of players that are being pulled out of their international teams. Sounds to me like Mikel's going, guys, I'm going to need you fit here. And if you're looking at the players that are not included, they're the players that are pretty much certified to play for their countries anyway. The likes of Gabriel, the likes of...
Are you okay with that, though? Players turning down their country?
Absolutely fine with it, mate. Right now, put it this way. If you do well for Arsenal, you're guaranteed to play for your nation anyway. So I think the only players that are not going to miss out on the opportunity are those that are on the fringes.
But as Savio Ancelotti and Gabriel's not turned up, do you not see that as turning you back on your country?
No, because the reality is he knows what's at stake over there. Ancelotti's the winner. You know, we have to start winning. It's actually going to be good for the national team once Arsenal start winning.
Does that result, though, on Sunday put doubt in your mind to win the Champions League? You know, like big one-off games, and Arsenal haven't showed up.
No, I don't see why it should. I mean, if I'm honest with you, I'm not even going to the next round of Champions League games. I'm not going to the Sporting games.
Why?
Because we should be beating those teams. We've got it in the bag.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Just like that?
Just like that. And you know what? That loss is going to help us because now the attitude is, look, we have no choice but to win. There's a higher expectation now. We can look at the situation with the goalkeeper, and I've had time to reflect, right? Yeah. I was really upset on Sunday, you know, because you were messaging me, right? Really upset.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, you're not sorry. But I look at that and I go, you know what? Now is the time now. You don't owe anyone anything, Mikel.
The talkSPORT 20k giveaway.
It's talkSPORT, and if you two could concentrate, please, rather than talking about your film repertoires. It's competition time, and it's an absolute belter, by the way, because imagine what you'd do with £20,000, because talkSPORT are giving one lucky listener the chance to bag 20 grand completely tax-free. Don't miss your chance to win this huge amount of money, and here is how to enter. Basically, first of all, have a think about how you would spend it, right? Who you'd take on that massive holiday with you, or who you'd take away for a few drinks. Text WIN to 83338. Text costs £2.50 plus your standard network rate, or you can call 0343 418 7260. Lines close 9th of April 2026, 4 p.m. And then when you, if you hear your phone ring on that day at that time, you must answer it. 18 plus. UK residents only. It's a network promotion. Full T's and C's apply at talksport.com. For your chance to win £20,000, text WIN now to 83338. Tell you what, we'd have a great Premier League All Access road trip with that, wouldn't we? 20 grand. I think we could probably do that. We could enjoy a good couple of weekends with that, couldn't we?
That's about a week's drinking for a minute.
Good couple of days. Where are you going? You better text to 83338 now.
It's his weekly wage nowadays.
Yeah, I would have thought so. Right, okay. The Liverpool have announced on Tuesday the cost of attending a match at Anfield is going to increase. It's going to go up by 3% next season, following further increases in line with inflation over the next two campaigns. They've decided to do this despite consulting with the Liverpool FC Supporters Board, a decision which was firmly opposed by fan leaders. Liverpool have revealed that adult general admission tickets, which currently cost £39 to £61, are going to rise between about £1.25 and £1.75. Adult season tickets, priced at £713 to £904, will increase by £21 or £27. They say the cost of junior tickets and local general tickets available to those with a Liverpool postcode would remain frozen. Fenway Sports, though, the owners of Liverpool, have been in charge since 2010, haven't increased prices on the Kop since they took over in 2010. So I suppose the big question is why have they decided now to put up the prices, and why do they believe that they need to go up over the next 3 years in line with inflation?
Maybe because they smashed the British transfer record not once but twice last summer. Someone's got to foot the bill for that. Maybe because there's a realistic possibility they miss out on Champions League football this season, the riches that come with that. Listen, I understand the fans' frustrations, and you don't want normal working class supporters to be priced out from watching their club, but the fact they have frozen prices in 8 of the last 10 seasons, I think inevitably they were going to have to put them up. I'm impressed they've frozen junior prices. I think that's really important, and also for local Liverpool fans with a Liverpool postcode. So I understand their frustration, but I can understand FSG's reasoning as well.
Jay McKenna, chair of the Supporters Board, says we're extremely disappointed about the increase. It makes us think that the more the club makes, there is still a call for more money from supporters. It's disappointing to say the least, and in some cases there is a lot of anger and frustration at that. What I think is really interesting here is the overall landscape, and we did a bit of digging, actually. Scott and I both watched a very informative sort of mini documentary about Fenway Sports and their owners of the Boston Red Sox as well. They took over in the early 2000s. They've had a bit of success, but the fan base there are not happy. There is a feeling as if the club now is being run not for sporting success, but for profit. And I wonder, do Liverpool fans feel like that as well? Are they starting to feel like that as well? I wonder if it's a trend that actually will end up taking over football, and Chelsea spring to mind. Because Fenway's excuse is that the environment is competitive and they need to raise prices to remain so. But if you have a look, especially at the Boston Red Sox figures, the more money they've accumulated, the less a percentage they've been spending on their playing squad over time.
Yeah, look, I don't know how baseball works, but in terms of football, I think up until the summer transfer window, then perhaps you could have aimed that at Fenway because they hadn't really spent a lot. And, you know, Arne Slot, I do think, did a great job last season where just Chiesa came in. But they spent nearly £500 million in the summer. So That's a lot of money, and you can argue whether it's worked or whether it won't, and whether it take time, and whether they wasted the money. But that's money being spent. So it's almost kind of like, it was a really interesting, really fascinating video, but it almost negated what the video was saying because of what they did in the last summer. I agree with you about you can broaden it out to Chelsea and maybe other clubs as well. And what is the ultimate aim? Is it to win trophies in the way that, say, a Roman Abramovich did, or is it to make sure it's a viable, almost company, which no fan wants to hear?
Hedge fund manager. He is all about creating wealth. He's not there for the goodness of Liverpool, is he? He
shouldn't be there for Liverpool then. Create money elsewhere. This is Liverpool
done the
Football
same with
Club.
the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah, and look, with a lot of success as well.
By the way, yeah, a lot of success. But as I mentioned, there's a lot of disenfranchised supporters of the Boston Red Sox because they believe that the percentage of money that is coming in is not then being replicated by the amount of money that is being spent on the players. They've allowed franchise pitchers and batters to go elsewhere.
Big names, yeah,
because they don't want to spend the money or commit to that player in terms of a no trade policy, so they have to commit to an 8-year contract or something like that, and they don't want to do that because they don't think it's cost effective.
No, that's right, and they looked at the bigger picture in terms of getting rid of a big name to bring in a couple of where defensively they were really struggling. But again, I go back to what they've done last summer. They've spent so much,
£57 million net spend.
Well, they got rid of some players, and I think Luis Diaz is probably the only one where I'd say, you need to try and find a way to keep him. Obviously, we know what happened with Diogo Jota as well and how much that perhaps affected.
Correct that. £263 million net spend.
That makes more sense.
Year was a £5 million profit. The previous year, £111 million net spend, $60 million the year before. I think the problem is that the overall feeling is what happens with these hedge funds is they're quite happy to spend a certain percentage to raise the profile of the club, to keep people in the talking shop. They believe, and I think Chelsea are in this boat, Jim Ratcliffe's probably in this boat, the Fenway Sports Group are in this boat, that they will try and make as much money during this period to keep this club bubbling under, and then they're going to sell it for a huge profit, like the Glazers have done. Already. They've only sold a little bit of it, and they've made a massive profit on it. Further down the line, because they think that sports franchises are going to increase. Now, what does the corporatisation of sport do to the local fan? That's the big question, because the thing that makes the Premier League and English football brilliant is the fact that you've got passion, drama, intensity, commitment. How are you going to keep that if you're making it just a money-making machine?
It's a brilliant question, but I guess if we got the opportunity to speak to John W. Henry, and obviously he won't ever come on this programme, he would say, well, if you can't beat them, join them. If you're seeing other clubs of their level putting up ticket prices, then you have to be... No, he didn't. I mean, one of the first things that Ratcliffe did was whack up the prices at Old Trafford.
No, but what I mean is that in
that
2000, he bought the Boston Red Sox. He was part of this big corporatisation in America.
Yeah, but in terms of in this country, everybody is putting their ticket prices up. I know Aston Villa fans have had online protests about how expensive their tickets for their European quarter-final are. United fans didn't react well when Sir Jim Ratcliffe started whacking up the prices, and now Liverpool have done the same. But unfortunately, it's a case of don't hate the player, hate the game. That is where modern football is going.
Does it need to be tickets that go up? Because let's be honest about it, right? The tickets are for the people that go and support the club and add to the atmosphere, which makes the football so much more entertaining, so much more passionate. Fans pay for everything, right? So any income that a football club get comes from a fan. Because if it's sponsorship that gives you, or commercial revenue that gives you your income, well, the idea is that the fans who are watching that product go and spend in those commercial areas. If it's merchandise, it's because the fans have spent money on it. If it's TV rights, it's because the fans are watching it on TV. The fans are paying for everything. So why should it be that tickets go up? Because that's where you're not getting a fair exchange, are you? I mean, you're getting your seat, you're in the stadium, that's great, but you're also participating.
Yeah, but unless, which is never going to happen, clubs agree to maybe have a salary cap or something, there's always going to be agents, players and clubs who want to try and get that best player, that next player to go in. The bigger picture here, because I actually think, and I circled, the junior tickets to remain frozen for the 11th consecutive season, the same price for locals as well. Yeah. I'm not sure the fans can really argue about this in particular. We know that it's getting really competitive more than ever. The bigger picture here and what you brought up about that video that we saw and and what they did with the Boston Red Sox and now with Liverpool, although I do think that last season the amount of money they spent is an exception, is where is this going? How many of the American hedge funders, multi-billionaires are going to get involved in the Premier League and actually look at the bigger picture to try and make money rather than win trophies?
That's what's scary.
And you said it shouldn't just be tickets. Well, it's not, is it? And again, this is sort of diverting away from the topic, but England's new kit has come out for the World Cup this week. I know you've already got yours. 135 quid for an adult's kit, 65 quid for kids. That, for me, is more worrying because you've got a groundswell of fans who obviously can't afford to get to America, want to show their support for the England team by buying the kit, and they're being priced out.
That's not entirely true. It's not £134 for a top. That's if you buy the match authentic shirt. I mean, the supporters top I think is about 80 quid, but it's expensive. It's expensive, and the kids one is 65 quid. You know, that is what it is, and you're right. Fans pay for it all. Fans pay for it all, and that's the point about being a fan. You want to invest in your club, but you've got to get something back. Sporting success has to be prioritised. At least with England, they're trying to win the World Cup.
Well, again, I'm not here to be a Liverpool apologist, far from it, but Fenway Sports Group were pointing out they've won Premier League titles and Champions League.
This is talkSPORT.
This season, the recruitment's not worked. They tried to replace Isak with two strikers, Visser and Voltamada, who've both struggled. I actually think Visser is better than people give him credit for. He just needs a good run. Ilanga doesn't play well often enough, flat to deceive. So who was in charge of recruitment? Who did that? There's the other big problem they've got, and where Eddie's problem, I like Eddie a lot, me watching Newcastle as long as I have this season, and they're a great watch generally because they go after teams, play high energy. But their second half performances and results in a league table, they'd be 16th. And that's because they're not adaptable. They're trying to mix a European campaign and a Premier League campaign, playing this 100 miles an hour. Now, you need a supreme squad of athletes to play that way. I don't see often enough Newcastle go, today we're going to go, let's be a bit more pragmatic. And it's great at home. It works sometimes.
Isn't it a constant trend for Newcastle? Every time they qualify for a Champions League season,
to struggle a bit.
They struggle in the rest of the season. Yeah. I think the first season when they qualify for the Champions League,
That's my point, because of the style.
So it is a Champions League situation. It's a squad situation.
Amount of games,
And also, at the beginning of the season, Newcastle were very poor away from home. Yeah. They weren't able to get any points in the first sort of 5, 6, 7, 8 games in terms of or score any goals. And that may play in some of it.
And of course, it might get worse before it gets better, because if there's no European football for Newcastle United, it might be goodbye to some of the big names, Bruno Guimaraes, Sandro Tonali, to name but two.
Craig Bellamy says he's very proud but definitely disappointed after Wales suffered World Cup penalty shootout heartbreak in their playoff at the hands of Bosnia. Gabby Agbonlahor reckons it's actually a good thing they didn't get through.
The last World Cup, I was there and I went to some of the Wales games. They were poor. Do you know what I mean? I just feel like Wales, the squad of players they've got, probably not ready for another World Cup.
Northern Ireland suffered a 2-0 defeat in Italy to also crash out at the playoff stage. Michael O'Neill said his players carried a terrific attitude throughout.
It's a very young team. I think the average age of the team is 22 years of age, which is incredibly positive for us to come here against an experienced team like Italy.
The Republic of Ireland were denied by spot kicks too, going down to the Czech Republic. Now, don't boo Ben is the message Thomas Tuchel is giving to England fans as the England defender returns to the squad tonight in their friendly with Uruguay. Our England correspondent, Faye Carruthers, spoke to Ben White's teammate, Noni Madueke, yesterday.
He said he was really delighted to be called back up for England and proud, and that, you know, he's actually a really good character behind the scenes, and perhaps we haven't seen that from Ben White in an England shirt.
And Luke Littler silenced fans in Berlin with an epic double Big Fish checkout to beat Michael van Gerwen. That's 2 treble 20s followed by a bullseye. He did that twice. It's back-to-back Premier League wins for the world number 1, who's now 2 points clear of Johnny Clayton at the top of the table. There's more. There's always more at talksport.com.
It's talkSPORT. It's Sam Matterface, Alex Crook, and Scott Minto. What are you doing, Nate? Why are you causing trouble? You don't even spend any time in here when in between the segments of the show. You're off out talking to people.
I think it's nice to go and network.
Sweets,
nice to go and network.
Or go and see your public, as you called them.
He did. Just before he started the show, my public.
Yeah, what is that all about?
Honestly.
Man of the people.
Yeah.
Unlike you, sat there in your funny jacket.
What? Jacket?
Funny jacket.
Funny jacket. Why is it a funny jacket?
It's good. It's good.
It's good. Well, if you don't like it, then it's probably a plus. Would it be unfair to make a judgment call on Liam Rosenior without a full summer and a season in charge, or have his first impressions been cast? In a briefing via Matt Law in The Telegraph this week, we're told that Liam Rosenior's position as Chelsea head coach is secure, even if the club miss out on the Champions League. That's not the impression that you were giving us when we were on Premier League All Access. You said the precedent was set with Enzo Maresca.
I said the precedent should have been set, but I've got to say, speaking to Chelsea sources myself this week, then they are saying yes, that there'll be no snap judgment. They feel it's right and proper that Liam Rosenior should get a full season in charge next year. I think it's divided opinions amongst Chelsea supporters. There are a lot, I think, who've already made up their mind when it comes to Rosenior. I think my opinion would be, and I know this is one that you share, Sam, that actually Liam Rosenior isn't the main reason that Chelsea are struggling for results and not hitting the heights they once did. But actually, he is a byproduct of the way the football club is now run. They don't want experience either on the pitch or in the dugout. And I think it's difficult to take them seriously in this model as a team who can anytime soon challenge for Premier League titles and to win the Champions League. I don't think they're going to qualify for the Champions League this season.
And that's the sort of follow-on from what we were just talking about with Liverpool, the ticket prices, the corporatisation of English football. With Chelsea under this model, they are not going to be serious challengers for titles because they don't want to invest in big-name talent. They don't want to spend a lot of money on a head coach. They've got a director whose comments to supporters have been leaked suggesting that head coaches don't matter. So they're not going to spend big money on an experienced coach either, and they don't like big experienced personalities because they don't want to have to manage them. They want someone who's going to fulfil their wishes, which is basically make the team as competitive as possible with the resources they decide to give them.
Sam, with Crookie as well, I've had this conversation with you guys many, many times, and you just look at the Roman Abramovich era from when he first took over. Ready-made, world-class, senior pros, leaders on and off the pitch. And with a manager to match as well. And if it didn't work out, then they'd just get another manager to come in. But the bottom line is what Liam Rosenior, what Mauricio Pochettino, what Enzo Maresca has not been given, that those managers were given under Abramovich, are those ready-made senior pros. And
can you explain to me why, in a squad of 30 players, it's impossible for you to carry 3 or 4 really experienced players and surround them with 26 youngsters?
So because they cost big money in terms of wages. And obviously one of the big remits that Blue Co have brought in is they've brought the wage bill down. They don't pay the type of money Chelsea used to.
No, and they offer 7, 8, 9 year contracts, don't they, and sort of make up for the money that way, which if you're going to get a senior pro, you can't offer them that. But
I'm not asking for...
What do you want?
We are not asking for 30 experienced superstars, 10 experienced superstars, 5 experienced superstars. You're asking for 3 or 4?
I think 3. I think, well, in terms of...
That's not going to overinflate the wage budget to such an extent that it's going to cripple the club.
In key positions, goalkeeper, centre-half and striker. João Pedro can't do everything by himself. You need another option. Remember Nicolas Anelka as well as Didier Drogba. They didn't always play together. It was one or the other. And if you're going to be chasing the top trophies, you need leaders on the pitch. How many times have we seen individual errors? And Liam's talked about it. There's only so much a coach could do. I don't agree with the quote of it doesn't matter who the coach is. And of course it does. Look at Pep Guardiola. Look at Jurgen Klopp. Look at Carlo Ancelotti. The way they can manipulate the team that they've got to win trophies. But ultimately still, in terms of mistakes, it's down to the players. You look at the Newcastle goal.
I don't think you can absolve Liam of absolutely everything.
No, and we're not.
I think he would turn around and say yourself. I mean, me and Crook had a conversation after the interview that went out on the television just before the PSG game when he said the only way to take on PSG is to go with them toe-to-toe, blow by blow. And we said straight away, I went up to Crook, we were both in the stadium together, and I went, that's not a good idea.
No.
What's the idea then? What should he have done when you're 3 goals down?
I think that probably they should have stayed in the game for a little bit longer.
It's not like an Arsenal...
slowly but surely pick them off.
Not like the Arsenal semi-final where you're only 1 goal behind.
Yeah, but if you're 2 goals down in the first 20 minutes, it's over.
That's where the individual mistakes come from. You can't have the individual mistakes. And we go back to...
But then who decided to pluck Sarr from nowhere and give him a Champions League debut against the European champions? And he made a mistake. So is that the player's mistake or is that the manager's mistake?
What was the option? There's no Reece James.
Fofana was on the bench.
There was no Malagos.
Achiampong was on the bench.
Fofana just probably should have played.
Fofana had just made a big mistake.
Or Caicedo could have played right back and they could have played an extra in midfield.
Well, they could have done. But, Josh Achiampong probably would have been the option. But... even then, if he'd have made a mistake, people would say you're playing a youngster.
But at least with Josh, he's played in that team for a very long time and he's been in and out. And
hindsight's a wonderful thing, Sam. And look, I understand the Chelsea fans because I don't think that Liam's CV justifies being Chelsea manager. But we go back to where we do agree is the bigger picture here is the model, the philosophy. 3 players of senior players in those key positions, for me, help Chelsea. I mean, I hear people saying they're a million miles away. I don't think they are. I think they've got some incredibly talented players.
And Dean Ashton
made
this point
on the pitch.
They might finish 7th.
Yeah, but
they might do. But that's what I'm talking about. The lack of senior players.
Also, it's the fact they played a lot of football. Last summer took it a lot out of them. A lot of players have played a lot of minutes, and that is going to be a problem towards the end of the season, I think.
They've had over 100 games in 18 months or so.
Crazy.
They've had a lot of injuries, and while I don't necessarily agree with the medical staff sitting on the bench, and I was there at the Bournemouth game for talkSPORT where Enzo Maresca 2-2 takes off Cole Palmer, screams of you don't know what you're doing. Well, maybe it wasn't his decision. So I do understand there needs to be a balance, and the injuries have been a problem. But ultimately, I think it's down to the head coach to be given the tools. And I don't think he's given the full tools to do what we're expecting Chelsea to do, and that's win Premier League.
Because some of the recruitment has been bang average. Liam Delac looks sensible in terms of business. You're getting someone who scored goals in the Premier League for a relatively modest fee. Is he good enough to take Chelsea where a lot of the fans think they still should be? No. Garnacho. Talk me through that signing. Stunk the place out with his attitude at Old Trafford. Guess what? He's turned up at Stamford Bridge. He's stinking the place out with his attitude.
I thought you were a big fan of Garnacho. No. Listen, I can I can talk for hours about this, but just you're not a million miles away, not as far away as people think, but go that senior pro. You can't underestimate on the training pitch as well as the matches just how important a senior pro is.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with Enzo Fernandez in the summer as well. Lots of comments that have been attributed to him over the last week or so. This is talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's real deals at selcobw.com. Before we go, where have all the icons gone?
Can't work out. Can you be chicky? You'll be the one hell of a beating. Can you be encouraging? Signed. Can you be signed? You're going to win a hell of a beating, Beavertown Brewery. 3-point lane. I do you a favour. The Sainsbury's Stadium. The big cockerel. Can you be cockerel? You're going to win a hell of a beating to Darius Defoe. Help me out. Spurs. You're going to win hell of a beating. Has anyone seen the Gunners? Mike Keown. Can you be Keown? You're going to win a hell of a beating, Kemper. That Lucas MP. Eagle for the forever. Gunnosaurus. Kemper. Arteta's light bulb. Can you be light bulb? You're going to win a hell of a beat with the dog. What's up to him? He's still alive. Can you be Arsenal? You're going to win it.
You are useless. Honestly, you're a shambles of a man. What a weekend of football. Spurs. Oh, my word. What on earth happened? What is going on at this football club? We're going down. Spurs are going down. Chelsea disrespected the ball again. What's happening to them? They're in shambles. Arsenal, they bottled it in the League Cup final. Does Arteta need to take the blame for starting Kepa in goal? It's talkSPORT. It's Sam Matterface, Alex Crook, and Scott Minto. In sort of, I suppose, continuation of the conversation that we're having about the.
You know, we've got to hurry up this section, by the way, because he's got a train to catch
every week.
Yeah.
Well, we're not hurrying up. We just do it on our own time scale, and he will have to.
We are professional, and unlike some shows, we finish on time.
You are not professional.
To allow those following us.
You are about the least professional person I've ever met in my entire life, and the only reason that you want to finish on time is because you've always got something in your diary next, and you're just like, oh, I want to get there. Usually it's a pint waiting for you. It's actually worse if there's a pint waiting for him. We were talking about sort of like, you know, what the relationship is like for supporters, because supporters have to pay for everything, right? So supporters at Chelsea and at Liverpool upset with the model, the ticket prices or whatever. With Mo Salah leaving, a lot of commentators have talked about the fact there's a lack of icons in the Premier League. Obviously, last year we had De Bruyne leave. You've had, over the course of the last few years, you've had Ronaldo back fleetingly. You've had Ibrahimovic here fleetingly. But the big boys don't come to the Premier League, do they? I mean, Haaland is probably the only global icon that is still there. Would that be fair? I mean, Son's not there anymore. De Bruyne's not there anymore. Salah's going. Kane, Ronaldo, Zlatan, all gone. Mbappe, Vinicius, Bellingham, Messi, Neymar. They would rather play elsewhere. Why?
That's a very good question. I don't think there's as many superstars today as the kind of has been in the past. Obviously, Messi, Ronaldo were the two superstars, and no one could get anywhere near them. And that doesn't mean to say that others like Neymar and Luis Suarez weren't. What I would say is, I think Real Madrid's, whatever you say about Manchester United, even when they're at their pomp, that I think are the biggest club in the world, the most attractive club in the world. You could argue maybe even Madrid in terms of just living there as well, I think is incredible. Barcelona too. You think about that Barcelona team of Messi, Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets, Puyol, just absolutely sensational. And you look at Real Madrid now, Vinny Jr., Mbappe, Bellingham. Who else have I missed? I think the general ones, they've always had the very, very top ones have probably gone to La Liga and Real Madrid. Whereas the Premier League, it's almost like the next section down, but deep, from probably the 5th to about 50th. And I think the quality generally has been good, but in terms of the very, very top, I'm not sure the Premier League has always had it.
And I don't actually think it's a conversation that's just restricted to the Premier League. We've got the World Cup this summer. We've got every game live on the talkSPORT network. We're looking forward to going out there. But who's going to get us off our seats in the summer? I've got a list of names
Haaland,
here.
Bellingham, Kane.
Yamal, who I think lit up what was quite a poor European Championships without him. Mbappe has been there, done it on the world stage. Messi and Ronaldo, but they're fading forces now. Bellingham, you've mentioned, I'll give you, I think he can do things that probably nobody else in that England team can.
Vinicius?
But look at Brazil.
Jr.
Well, look at Brazil. You're talking about Richarlison or Igor Thiago probably leading the line for Brazil. Think of the great number 9s Brazil have had in the past. So I don't think it's just the Premier League that is lacking icons. Well, he's not a superstar with the greatest respect in the world in the Ronaldo, Rivaldo,
No, agreed, but he can do special things.
He might be a superstar by the end of the World Cup. Vinicius is a superstar.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I missed him off the initial list, but it's a handful of players who are going to go to that level.
And the worries, if you're talking about the World Cup, is after a very heavy season, plus playing in difficult conditions.
Because the Euros was poor, by and large.
Yeah, I agree.
Spain, the Euros was poor.
And whatever you say about Qatar, I thought it was a superb World Cup.
It was a brilliant World Cup. Yeah, it was a great tournament to watch. And actually, I think about that. Enzo Fernandez is one of the great stars of that tournament. And Chelsea acquired him very quickly afterwards for a hell of a lot of money. But do you think that the Premier League now can attract those big name stars, the ones that do exist? And are they willing to carry those wages, carry what comes with that? Or are we now in a situation where instead of trying to sort of be a close horse for big brand players, we're only interested in what makes the club right, and therefore we're missing out on those global icons?
Well, probably because the big clubs are trying to be more frugal. The big point for Manchester United this summer, it's why Casemiro is going to go, it's why they're trying to get Harry Maguire to reduce his contract. They're trying to bring down the wage bill. Chelsea, because they've changed the profile of the squad, they've already brought down the wage bill. Liverpool are looking to cut costs and bring down the wage bill as well. So if you are one of those superstars, I mean, say Lamine Yamal came available this summer, who's going to pay his wages? Probably only Arsenal.
I think someone like him, he is a true superstar, and he's almost still not even at the age where you're thinking. I mean, most people are buying at 2021. He's still not even there yet. He's a teenager. I think any club that's got money would want to come in for him. I look at it and I think to myself, do you know what? In terms of the Premier League, Bayern Munich have come out recently and said, actually, we may just go for a sprinkle of superstars, and then the rest are kind of almost coming through the academy or just young, promising people.
But that's what they've been saying for a little while. Players 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 in the squad are all younger players.
Yeah. So those mid-level where they're earning what they're earning, and the Premier League still has a multi-billion league, whereas the others are multi-million. So the money's there, but I think the superstars will carry on getting the most money and more than ever. And I do think the Premier League can attract the superstars. I just think if a world superstar's getting the option of playing for Barcelona or Real Madrid or Man City, Liverpool.
Do you think the league's too hard? Easier on my joints and my muscles. I get an easier ride rather than playing in the brutal Premier League, which we know is a brutal league.
Partly. I think it's a reason, but I don't think it's the only reason. I think living in Spain with the lifestyle that you can have over there, playing for Real Madrid, the biggest club, I think, in the world, that's ultimately the biggest the biggest.
What has Madrid got that Manchester hasn't? That's my question. Crookmeister, thank you very much. Go and get your train. Scotty, thank you very much for filling in for Gabby today. We appreciate that. Enjoy tonight's football. England, Uruguay live on talkSPORT 7:45. And we'll see you over the weekend. Good luck.